All right, guys, what is up? Welcome back to the Transparency deep diving for you guys. Jared Bridegan's shooter coerced by detectives. That'd be Henry Tenon. We're going to break it all the way down so everybody can understand what has truly gone on in this case. If you take the guided tour, which we're not going to do, right? We're going to ask questions, which we do, and we're going to point out, holy shit, we got some problems here. It's also going to point out in other cases that we've been covering, like the Idaho 4 case. This case, I'm literally going to show you today in black and white how timing advanced data was obtained from AT&T in 2022, well after the 7 days. Okay? That's right. Why does that matter? Well, because they said that Brian Kohlberger's timing advance records were never obtained because they could not get to them because of the 7 days had passed and yada, yada, yada. All lies. All lies. If you go through federal partners, ATF is federal. The FBI, you can get timing advance because of the way that they go about it. This case happened well before the Idaho 4 case. So Jared Bridegan was gunned down and murdered in February of 2022. The Idaho 4 case was in November of 2022. So if you can do this shit in February slash April slash August of 2022, and you can go back that far to go and get stuff from December, January, and February of 2022, if you could put in through ATF, if they were able to preserve stuff, get stuff, and they didn't even know about Henry Tenon until months later. Well, how do we have timing advance? How do we have timing advance for other people? Well, let's do it. To remind you guys, this is a little clip from an Arthur hearing. This is Detective John's on the stand.
Henry Tenon was eventually arrested and charged with the murder of Jared Bridegan.
That's correct.
And do you recall the date on which that occurred, or the time period on which that occurred?
Early January 2023.
Leading up to
Okay, right there. He says that Henry Tenon was arrested for the murder of Jared Bridegan in January of 2023. Yes, that is correct. But in August of 2022, Henry Tenon was pulled over for a traffic stop, driving under a suspended license. Henry Tenon's like, this is not right. During that stop, they open up the trunk and find a 1915 antique shotgun. It's an antique. You're allowed to have those. Even if you are a felon, you can have antique. They do not fire. They're not a weapon. And according to the statute in Florida, that is not considered a gun violation. Okay. What do? They arrest Henry Tenon for gun charges. They say that he was driving under a suspended license, and they put him in jail from August 2022 until he goes September, October, November, December. Then January comes of 2023, and now they go ahead and they charge him with the murder of Jared Bridegan, that he shot and killed, and saying that he was the shooter. While Henry Tenon was in jail, which was the detective's way of, hey, let's shake the tree. Okay. They were waiting for the Henry getting in contact with Mario or that type of shit. When Mario and Gardner will eventually be arrested here, Mario happens to be in March of 2023, and then Shanna Gardner is in August of 2023. Okay. The defense is asking for the jailhouse phone calls of Henry Tenon. They end up giving the defense the jail calls, nothing prior to January of 2023? Like, where are all those phone calls?
The arrest of Henry Tenon, were there investigative techniques being pursued by the Jacksonville Beach Police Department?
Yes, during the time that we knew we were going to announce the charges against Tenon, we had also received a court order for a wire intercept.
And a wire intercept to intercept phone, text, and audio communications between Ms. Gardner, Mr. Fernandez Saldana, and other individuals of interest.
That's correct.
And that court order was you did an application and a judge granted that.
That's correct.
In order to get,
What was the date of that? We're going to get into all of this.
chatter generated, what did you all decide to do to what the phrase being trigger communications?
We decided to go ahead and have the wire in place before the charges were announced against Mr. Tenon. We did that, and then we made the announcement about the arrest or the additional charges that have been added.
And before you made the announcement about Henry Tenon's arrest, did you purposely leak information to the media that a break or an arrest was imminent?
Yes.
And
So they purposely leaked information saying that there was a break in the case and that arrest was coming.
did the media run with that information?
Yes.
Okay.
Did the media run with that information?
Did you say who was going to be arrested?
No.
So the information was just that an arrest or big break was coming.
That's correct.
And Your Honor, the state has moved into evidence 15, 16, and 17, which are wired recording calls of Ms. Gardner from the wiretap. For time's sake, I'm not going to play the entire calls and some detective testify to the relevant portions. Beginning with call 170, which is State's Exhibit 15, what was one of the first calls that Shanna Gardner made after this leak was out and being publicized?
She was speaking with Ms. Jensen, wondering if she should give Mario a heads up about the information she received.
And do you remember specifically in greater detail kind of how it was that she learned of the leak and what her reaction was?
I actually don't remember how she learned of the leak.
He doesn't know shit because he didn't do shit. I believe that the ATF got all the wire intercepts, okay, based off of my investigation. But let's hear what he has to say.
Did she describe to Ms. Jensen how she was going to give Mario a heads up or a warning that a big break was coming?
She talked about actually using her neighbor's phone in order to call Mario to give him information about it.
And that neighbor would be Marla Rogers?
That's correct.
During the entirety of the wiretap, was this a common theme that Ms. Gardner and Ms. Jensen discussed that their phones might be monitored?
Yes, that's correct. She made statements about the fact that she was warned that her phone was likely tapped.
And that was January 23rd, 2023. We're going to move on to a few days later when the arrest of Henry Tenon as the person responsible for the death of Jared Bridegan, at least responsible for the actual pulling of the trigger, is released. I want to discuss a phone call that Ms. Gardner made to her public relations firm on 1/25/2023. And I've included a portion of the transcript that the monitor used here. Can you describe for the court what was significant to you about this conversation?
She said that she admitted to knowing Henry. That
Shanna Gardner says that her phone is likely being tracked or tapped. Admits knowing Henry Tenon, she only met him once, and it was 5 years ago. Shanna Gardner says there is no paperwork or payments attaching Henry to the house, but the news may find out Henry was Mario's tenant. CT says there are things being unsaid in this conversation, and he understands why. LL says she's not worried about Shelly's business at this time, and less is more. SG tells parties that Henry started a pallet business a couple years ago, and he was a trucker, and he has already been to jail. Shanna says Mario gave him some seed money. LL asks, what is the relationship between Tenon and Jared Bridegan? Shanna is concerned that when it comes out that Mario gave him money within the past year, LL LL advised them to stop talking about this topic on the phone.
She had met him approximately 5 years ago, but there's
Made this call. The media, did a good job. They covered this fairly quickly, but at the time she made this call, had the media yet reported that Henry Tenon was linked to Mario Fernandez Saldana?
no.
At the time she made this call, had the media reported that Henry Tenon was a tenant to Mario Fernandez?
Okay. And this is where this big lie comes out. Okay. So it would look like, oh my God, what the hell is Shanna Gardner doing? Right? Oh my God. Well, this is where Detective John's flat out lies. Okay. Because it would look so bad right here. So bad. Well, Detective John's lies because what they did is back in July of 2022, they went to Henry Tenon and this guy named Jeremy Ordwell, who was tenant of Mario Saldana, and Detective Lamont, Detective Johns, they told this Jeremy Ordwell, who's the tenant of Mario, that he was arrested because of his truck, and then it had to do with a murder. They leave all of this out. How the hell did Shanna Gardner know this? Well, because Jeremy Ordwell has a conversation with his landlord, Mario Saldana, and tells him in July and August of 2022 all about this. And so if you leave that completely out of it, then yeah, how the heck would Shanna Gardner know anything? Because ding, 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 the cops told Jeremy, who was allegedly, what they're trying to say is Tenon's roommate. We're going to come to find out that Tenon was no longer living there. But anyway, you slice and dice it, this is flat out lies to make it seem like Shanna Gardner does not know, because we didn't leak anything. We didn't tell anybody anything. You're so full of shit. Now, this live is to show that Henry Tenon was completely used and railroaded. Well, Lana, how? Well, because I have the reports here. ATF, as well as the prosecutor's office, as well as the detectives, they knew that Henry Tenon was not the shooter. So why are you trying to get Henry Tenon to confess to being the shooter? And how I want to say that and tell you guys that I know this is, if you go, and I'm going to switch it all up over here, and it's the order of the investigation. Okay, this happened on February 16th, 2022. By March, the exact date is March 3rd. March 3rd. A guy by the name of John Biggerstaff is already known in Report 40 to the prosecutor Stifler here, and she puts a subpoena in to get all of John Biggerstaff's toll records from cell phone AT&T. Okay. Then she also does, they set up a geofence around his location of his house, which is the Cradle Creek area. Same time period, March 4th. There's a preservation report for the Google preservation for John Biggerstaff and Cradle Creek area. Again, this would be how long later? And when you're setting up these geofences, what ends up happening is you're looking for the different devices that have the IMEI numbers, seeing that, who's in this little area, who's coming and who's going during the time. And they set up a bunch of these geofences. The first one was around the crime scene. And it was, during the time of the crime, which they're alleging is around 7:45 to 7:50. And then they do 20 minutes before that time period, and then 20 minutes after that time period around the crime scene, which is about 2 miles from Shanna Gardner. And then they do around her area. Again, same thing around the time of the crime, 20 minutes before, 20 minutes after. And so they're picking these different areas out to set up these geofence warrants, or these geofences through getting warrants. And the prosecutor Stifler here comes onto this case day one and goes to the scene day one, and then she's involved in this case day one, and is the one that's basically getting and signing off for all these warrants, which she's working hand in hand with Jacksonville Police Department, Jacksonville Sheriff's Department, and ATF. Now, I went through again to make sure that I was accurate. I went through every report to see where anybody mentions the name Lindsay Butler. Now, Lindsay Butler works for the ATF. She is a criminal researcher for the ATF, and her name cannot be found in any report until you get to an ATF agent mentioning it. And if this ATF agent would have never put her name in this report, what they attempt to try to pull off could have possibly worked. But Stifler knows that Lindsay Butler is working this case from day one. Basically, she comes in the next day after the homicide, so it's considered day two. But Lindsay Butler begins researching whatever names you're giving her. She's looking for, whatever it is, like what kind of cars they all drive, where they live, who their associates are, anything that they can find with all the resources that they have. So I have a question for you guys. Why would John Biggerstaff, who's John Biggerstaff? Why are you interested in preserving anything and everything to do with John Biggerstaff, right? He should be interviewed. I mean, how are you going and getting a search warrant for his shit? Well, John Biggerstaff's name is no stranger to law enforcement in that area. John Biggerstaff is an ex-law enforcement person who got tied up in what he calls a total mistake, but into some being labeled like a sex offender, pedophile, bullshit, blah, blah, blah. Okay? But he's ex-law enforcement over there. Jackson, he worked at the sheriff's department. And now his son, Juan Biggerstaff, he lived in that area, but then went to Texas because he started his law enforcement career off in Irving, Texas. And he's a police officer there. During the week, so Jared Bridegan is shot on February 16th, 2022, which is a Wednesday. Juan Biggerstaff and his soon-to-be wife fly in from Texas on the Tuesday before that Wednesday. And they have their wedding on that coming weekend. So they fly in on Tuesday. They all get together at Juan, who's John's son's, so his sister's house. On Wednesday, they have like a dinner. Then they have Thursday. Then there's Fridays, the rehearsal dinner, and then Saturdays, the wedding. Okay. So that's why Juan Biggerstaff is coming into town. Now, John Biggerstaff, Juan, and then John's married to Maria Biggerstaff. So there's this little family, and then they have their daughter. I think her name is Stephanie. They all knew Mario Saldana from back when Juan and Stephanie were in high school. They haven't really come out and said it, but I believe that Mario Saldana was potentially having sex with Stephanie back before she was married and just getting out of high school. But that's how he meets their family. And then he moves on from hanging out with Stephanie and Juan to now he's cool with the parents, meaning Maria and John, and working out together. But then it goes further where, since Mario is a swinger, Mario recorded having sex with Maria at the Biggerstaff house. So that was on his device. All right. So it's kind of important to understand where John Biggerstaff comes in, because John Biggerstaff and this guy, Jeremy Ordwell, okay, without them, you're never even gonna, in my opinion, know the name Henry Tenon. Or when you come out to find out about Henry, it's just a whatever. So The big thing to look at, and I'm going to use all my notes here, is to follow these reports. And we're going to fast forward to, well, here, I'm going to let Detective John say a couple more things.
Saldana and attaching him.
Correct.
What was the reaction of
Right, like you didn't, this was not a recent payment or anything like that. Time or other applications that were encrypted to communicate so that they could not be intercepted by law enforcement.
not to give away state secrets, but can you evade a law enforcement interception by using other platforms and devices?
Yes, you can.
The last thing I want to talk about is some of Ms. Gardner's activities following the arrest of Mario Fernandez Saldana, which came in March of 2023 after Henry Tenon gave testimony against him.
Okay, right there. Now, between the arrest of when they announced it, hey, we're arresting Henry Tenon in January of 2023. Between January of 2023 to March 16th, 2023, Mario Saldana meets with the prosecution, and they don't ask him anything specific whatsoever. He only gives 251 words out of the 17 or 1900 words that were ever even said in this meeting. And somehow here we have Henry Tenon confessing and saying that he is the shooter. I shot Jared Bridegan. Okay. Now, it has just come out because Mario's defense team finally put it out, which is awesome, and said that Henry Tenon, the only statements we have from him are 251 words between, and we don't even know the exact date that this even happened. And he's actually giving yes or no answers to everything that's being asked. So everything's leading. Okay. We have no idea when Henry Tenon contacted his attorney, just a simple contact to say, hey, I want to talk to the prosecutors and I want to be a cooperating witness and I want to tell them everything that they need to know so that they can see that this is how this all played out because I want a deal. Okay. It should not be a big secret on how this all played out, if and in fact this is legit. Well, here in this case, it is a big secret. And why would it be? I mean, here's a guy that wants his deal. He's going to tell you everything because he knows everything, right? Well, that's the problem, is that the state knew that Henry Tenon didn't know anything. Okay? But if this is the route that they have to go in order to be able to get Mario and Shanna Gardner, hey, it looks like we're going to take false testimony. It looks like we're going to let this guy tell us and tell the world that he's the shooter and that he is pleading guilty to second-degree murder for like 15 years to life, okay, and that he will testify truthfully against them. Okay? Well, once this happens between January and March of 2023, it is after Henry Tenon gives these false statements under oath to the prosecution, where I believe that they went and got additional search warrants. And it's going to show all out because there's a timeline to this. If you're using known falsehoods in order to get a search warrant, you're going to be fucked, right? You're eventually going to be fucked if the judge does what they're supposed to do. But more importantly, we'd have to go all the way back to 2022 when they were getting all these Google preservation orders and getting everybody's Google in their phones and downloading them. Mario and Gardner had lawyers from Jump, which means that there's all this protected client attorney privilege information in these phones that you want to take. Also in the Google iCloud, all that shit. So you need to have a taint team. Well, the prosecutor lied, flat out lied, and said that she was using somebody by the name of Lindsay Butler from the ATF as her taint team. Well, Lindsay Butler's actually been on the case since day one and has been going through all of these communications, just looking at whatever she wants. And what I was able to do, and I sent a tip into the defense team, and I said it was for Henry Tenon's defense, but I CC'd the rest of all of the attorneys because, hey, it's all of you guys should use it. I said, I am not taking the guided tour. Defense counsel tip number 1, timeline immediately after ATF agent Lindsay Butler, Detective Johns, and Detective Lamont received Mario Fernandez's Google return on July 5th, 2022. In a deposition, Lindsay Butler admits under oath that she, upon receiving July 5th, 2022 return, that she immediately started looking at it. I said, after this happened, it would take less than 3 weeks for them to go to Henry Tenon and go and start talking to Henry Tenon and Jeremy Ordwell, which was July 17th to July 26th of 2022. And lo and behold, they would show up there and voila, we have a tire just waiting for you. A matching tire that was in the middle of the road. Okay. Let me grab. Okay. So I said, next paragraph. I said, please see Lindsay Butler's deposition, page 14, February 14th, 2024. From this page of the deposition, April 14th, 2022, Detective Johns issued a Google search warrant for Mario Fernandez's Google. July 5th, 2022, Google search warrant returned. In quotes. Okay, when did you receive both of those returns for your analysis and intelligence? Page 14. Answer. The first one, I'm not sure. I would have been, I believe, shortly after the return was received from Google, but I do not have an exact date. That's on page 15, the answer to that. Why does she have not an exact date? Because guess what? Lindsay Butler did not make one report in this case. She didn't type up a single report. I said, Stifler in an email to Mario's counsel claimed that an ATF agent from Miami was going to be the quote-unquote taint agent. We know this didn't happen. Did Stifler know that Gardner and Mario had attorneys prior to July 5th, 2022? If so, what type of communication between Stifler and Johns and Lamont occurred prior to July 5th, 2022 as it pertained to the search warrants and their returns? Not sure how Stifler would not be aware that Lindsay Butler, okay, who has been on this case since day 2, could not be a taint agent who was reviewing all the material all the time. She was the criminal researcher for ATF. I cannot prove this because it's just logic. Logic tells me that Stifler knew that Lindsay Butler was not on a single report. And that was Stifler's attempt to say that Lindsay Butler was this taint agent, ATF. But then again, this would be me assuming. You guys may have more information. However, it is noteworthy to see that Butler did not write any reports in connection with this case. But thank goodness to honest people. Her name got put into a report, not from Lamont or Johns, but from another ATF agent who put together the ATF report that leaked to the internet. So shortly after July 5th, 2022, ATF agent Butler began looking through Mario's Google search return that had not been filtered. All of this should be fruit of the poisonous tree and should be tossed. And I think that it's going to be because Judge Kite already tossed some of it. And then shortly after July 5th, 2022, and after Butler looked through Mario's unfiltered Google search warrant returns, Mario's rental property would be visited by Jacksonville Beach Police Detectives. And those same detectives, on that initial trip over to the rental property, which was approximately 6 months after the murder, would just happen to, quote unquote, run into Henry Tenon, Jeremy Ordwell, and a matching tire from the murder scene. Sounds like these detectives should all pitch in and play the Powerball. They are some lucky ass detectives. I find it hard to believe that Henry Tenon would have hid his truck at Jones's place, but before leaving, he was like, let me get my spare tire. And then after keeping the spare tire, decided to take it out of the trunk of his car and throw it on the front yard and let it sit out there for days, weeks, months, while the police are on the hunt for a killer that drives a blue truck and could have a matching tire to the one that was left in the middle of the road where Bridegan was murdered. Seeing that John Biggerstaff was learned very early on in this case, like March of the investigation, and preservation orders were placed on him, I tend to think that John Biggerstaff has some interesting involvement on how that tire ended up at the rental. Why would Mario frame himself? Now, back to the deposition. I caught another lie or inconsistency, as you lawyers like to call them. Question. Okay, and how did you receive it? Talking about the Google return. Answer. I would have received it from either Detective Johns or Lamont. I don't recall which one. Question. And would you have received it hand delivery or mail delivery? Now, ready? She says hand delivery. Perfect. And in what mode or means would you have received it? Typically, they would bring a flash drive over and I would pull the information off of a flash drive. Now, this portion of the timeline is very important because during Lindsay Butler's deposition, February 14th, 2024, it was glossed over that Lindsay Butler was in possession, yes, the same with Detective Johns and Lamont, of Mario Fernandez's Google return prior to any Taint team and prior to the names Henry Tenon and Jeremy Orwell on a damn thing. Okay? And this happened to be on a flash drive, which the reason this is important is because it would be X amount of months later when this same information that did not get, it was uploaded to the evidence, well, it wasn't evidence.com, but it was called Next Point. And in Lindsay Butler's testimony for her deposition, she says that she believed that everything, the Google stuff, everything, the phones, anything that she ever reviewed, she believed that it went through a Taint team. Well, guess what? Angel Navarro from the Secret Service was not hired and brought in on this case until 2023. So who the fuck? It's just black and white. Lindsay Butler, you received something in 2022. Okay? In July. Who did you think went through it before you got this on a thumb drive? Which this is the same version that was on the working laptops, computers of these detectives. Next Point would upload, not like you have to give them the information and then it gets uploaded. Well, guess what got uploaded to the Next Point portal? Not the Taint team version. Okay, that Stifler kept on writing to the defense saying stuff isn't done yet. We didn't even get these returns yet. They don't even have this. They don't have this report even done. Well, she would get caught lying. And because they were done. They were done. And let me tell you what she also lied about. So what Mario's defense team told him to do is title every email and any attachments with confidential in the subject line. Because they knew that they were being prime suspects number one, right? That's her ex-husband. We know this, blah, blah, but they went in for interviews. They consented to all their DNA. They consented to, you can have the phones to download them, all this shit. All right. And so here, his defense attorney, Mario's, was like, title everything confidential, yada, yada, yada. And whatever you want to provide me with, okay, then this is client attorney privilege information. Okay, now, why does this matter? Henry Tenon was arrested in August of 2022 after Butler had gone through all of this shit. But the way that she went through it is she claims that I never looked at the emails. I only looked at everything else because there could be client attorney privilege information in emails. And this is where I wrote in and said, listen, I believe that if you go back and look, because you're deposing her again, you're deposing her and Angel again, and you left out a bunch of questions you could ask, you know, because they're doing like all these depositions. And I was just like, hey, and I clipped, cut, and showed like where the different shit was. And I said, the biggest piece for me is that if you guys are really focused on the 2023 Google stuff that happened, but in 2022, Lindsay Butler's admitting to looking at that shit immediately after getting the return back. And most importantly, the way that she obtained the information was on a thumb drive that she took directly from John's in Lamont, which means that's the version that these motherfuckers were looking at. And why this matters is because they took material that was in a timeline, in attachment, and spun it all to the point of that they used it against Mario or Henry Tenon after they arrested him. And how do I know this? Because finally, I'm going to show you what was done in this case. Wait, hold on. Not that one, not that one. Okay, maybe it is this one. Nope. Okay, here it is. Good morning to everybody. Hello. All right. This is Henry Tenon's lawyer. Okay, so remember, Henry Tenon basically is not talked to. Nobody, he's basically isolated all of August. And then here comes January. Okay, we're going to arrest him for this murder. Then January to March, at some time in between there in 2023, Henry Tenon supposedly confesses to being the gunman. And I'm going to get this plea deal and I'm going to testify, truthfully against the, Gardner and Mario. And then they keep him out of a courtroom for sentence him. They didn't do shit. And one would ask themselves, Lana, is that normal? No, it's not fucking normal. Okay. No, it's not fucking normal. It's not normal at all. You sentence somebody. Okay. Well, Lana, why wouldn't they do that? Well, we were wondering this too, until we find out that Henry Tenon, when he finally got in a courtroom in October of 2024, okay, think about that. They keep him out of a courtroom, basically, he gets arrested on some bogus traffic shit and then fake gun charges, keep him for 6 months. Then they arrest, then when he's in jail, they rearrest him while he's in jail. Now we're arresting you for the murder of Jared Bridegan. Then within 2 months, they supposedly say that Henry Tenon is now confessing to being the shooter. And then that's what they use to create this probable cause to go and then arrest Mario Saldana and then Shanna Gardner. Is this false confession? Okay. And then they use this at the grand jury, as well as other ridiculous shit. Okay. Now, and then they keep fucking Henry Tenon from between January and March out of 2023, out of a fucking courtroom, all of 2023, and then almost all of 2024 until October of 2024 comes, like 10/9/2024, where Henry Tenon finally is in front of Judge Kite and says, I gave false testimony. I gave false testimony. I want to talk to somebody about it. Literally goes like that into the mic, and his defense attorney is standing right here. And it is my position that his crooked ass Alan Copperfield defense attorney can kiss everybody's ass. Fuck him. He knew that Henry Tenon needed to not come anywhere close to a courtroom because this is how he's felt for almost 2 years from the moment that he did this. Why? Because they lied to him and said that they had all this stuff against him and that he was going to get the death penalty and he's going to be killed and blah, blah, blah. Well, Lana, how do you know that? Well, because of these notes that were taken. Now, after October happens, right? The judge is like, whoa, 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 whoa. Here, go talk to your lawyer. We're going to go off the record here. And Henry Tenon's hurry up and rushed off. Then this gets kind of buried until it leaks to somebody, hey, you might want to go and see what happened in court with Henry Tenon's status conference. They go and get the meeting minutes with just go get the audio. And you hear what Henry Tenon is saying. And then they're supposed to have a meeting with his attorney, and then he's supposed to be brought back out, but he never comes back out. Instead, they have so then this gets pushed all the way until January. And then in January of 2025, they have this meeting. Take a look at this shit. This is his attorney, Henry Tenon's attorney, Alan Copperfield, okay? So now the state has to make a 6th supplemental discovery exhibit to give to Shanna Gardner and Mario. And now a category A witness is Alan Chipperfield, okay? Why? Well, because he is now a witness, all right? And these are Alan Chipperfield's handwritten notes from January 14th, 2025. It's a meeting between ASA's I call him Maserati, and Christina Stifler. Pieces of shit. And then the SAO investigator, Casey Bennett, was in that room, and Henry Tenon was in that room. Okay. And here it is. This is so it says 1/14/2025, meeting at SAO's with Alan, Christina. Anytime you see a triangle like that, that's defendant. Okay. And the defendant, after defendant said in court earlier yesterday, he lied. He warned the defendant damages of talking to the ASA. You can listen to them is one thing, but telling them a new defense gives them an advantage. Okay. So this is what he says that he says to him. Then Alan comes in the room, Christina. So Alan says, hey, we've identified your truck, DNA on the tire. Okay. Video of you, lie. There was no video of Henry Tenon. None. Cell phone at the scene, cell in St. Johns County on Main Street and gym where his daughter Jared goes to gymnastics, and it's called like Nocatine, whatever it's called, like that's the name of it. He's like, we have an overwhelming case against you. Mario would have had to steal your phone and go there. Okay. Defendant, I never been to Nocatine. I don't even know what that word, how to pronounce that word. Defendant, I told you that so you'd get Mario. Basically, he's saying I told you guys what you wanted to hear so that you guys can actually find out that I was innocent and you guys can go and get the real person that did this. Okay. Alan then says, so you confessed to a crime so we'd find out you didn't do it. The defendant turns 64 next month. Confess to, don't even know what that even says. Confess to then prove innocence. You had an opportunity. You cried in front of me. Signs of remorse. Okay. Someone has talked to you, paid you, threatened you. And he's like, no, I only talk to inmates about chess. Not my case ever. I learned chess once I came to jail. He's like, you cannot be this dumb. This is what the prosecutor is saying to him. You cannot be this dumb. You showed genuine remorse. He says, I'm not lying to you, Alan says. So I don't know who's I'm not lying to you, but Alan says, do you trust him? I think Henry Tenon is the one that says, I'm not lying to you. And then Alan says, do you trust him? Then Henry says, I paid tickets a long time ago. And Bodie couldn't tell me why I am charged with DWLS, driving with a license suspended. And this is me saying, yes, exactly. He's over here still talking about, I don't even know how you guys even arrested me in the first place. And I asked him, what do you mean? I paid a ticket. I paid this. How is my license suspended? Which now I'm on the hunt for, because I'm like, I want to know way more about that, because they made up these false gun charges against this dude off of a antique 1915 gun that they knew you cannot fire. And they knew it doesn't meet the statute. You're allowed to have antiques. It was in the trunk of his car. So they got him on gun charges. Okay. Thank you. $999.99. Kicking ass as always, my firecracker for life. Good evening to everyone and sending lots of love and kindness. Black Cat and Jam. So here's Henry, like they're in this room. Okay. And he's like, no, nobody paid me, threatened me, nothing. Okay. I'm not lying to you. And then he says, I paid tickets long ago and Bodie couldn't tell me, that's a last name of a guy that's an officer. He couldn't tell me why I am charged with DWLS. Well, Alan says the government is sometimes incompetent. What? Dude, that's his answer when Henry Tenon's basically saying it like this. I know y'all arrested me on some fake ass shit. Okay. I even asked him and he could not tell me anything to do about this driving while suspended license. Okay. Here's Alan Chipperfield that gets assigned to his case when? Like the traffic shit, the gun shit. Alan, you did nothing. Alan Chipperfield needs to go. You never met with your client. You didn't do shit. So then Alan says, the government is sometimes incompetent. The prosecutor saying that. Life without the possibility of parole and death is what you would be facing if you go down this road. I have case against Mario without you, but you make case much more difficult. But you, whatever, maybe it says without you makes the case much, you guys get it. Like I have a case without you, but you make the case more difficult, without you. You will face perjury as well. Like, basically, not only if you go down this route, but we're going to charge you with perjury. And it's like, you motherfuckers, you knew he wasn't the shooter. I have reports here where you guys are saying that Mario and them used him, basically borrowed his truck, okay? And y'all knew this. So you guys accepted he gave a false confession because you guys coerced him. And now you're going to say, well, if you go this route, not only are you going to be facing life in prison or the death penalty because it's first degree, you are now going to be facing perjury charges. We're going to bring you up on perjury. Nah. Do it. Do it. I dare you to charge this man with perjury. You fucking took advantage of somebody, and it's so obvious. Mario thought so little of you. He thought he could manipulate you and give you money. Don't try to defend him and help him. Alan, this is Alan. This is the prosecutor saying, this is Maserati saying, I worry about you. You try to do the right thing, and now you want to reverse it. Everything was pointing at me. I had to get someone else involved. Everything was pointing at me. I had to get someone else involved. Is it B, you don't want to be labeled a snitch? You're not listening to what this man is saying. He's basically saying that he was framed. You understand? But then I'm trying to sit over here and tell you guys, yeah, the government. He's like, everything was pointing to me. I had to get somebody else involved. You should be saying, what does that mean, Henry? Why aren't you listening to a fucking word? And then I realized they know what he's meaning. They know what he's saying. They cannot let him talk. That's why Maserati is just spitting shit. And remember, these are notes. These aren't, and this is, we're going to believe, this asshole, he probably missed really important shit. But he says, is it because you don't want to be labeled a snitch? Michael Dunn is serving his sentence out west. No one knows. So if that's basically like, we can move you. Henry Tenon says, no one is harassing me. Are you worried about your daughter? This is what they say to him. Are you worried about your daughter? It's like, you just brought up my family, man. Do I need to be now? Because you are the first person to mention my family. Why are you mentioning my family? That's what I would have said. Get the fuck out of my face. Then Henry's like, well, I can't reach one of them. She's in Kentucky, won't answer the phone. Her voicemail box is full. That's usually unusual. He's like, we will put you on the stand regardless what you say. No, you can't. We will put you on the stand regardless what you say. What? First of all, he's a defendant. He doesn't have to testify. Are these people fucking dumb? Do you see what they say to this man? These attorneys need to start facing consequences for this sort of crap. It's 100%. This is some sick shit. And you know what's even sicker now? The media. You guys, these papers are available. I know everybody over there in Jacksonville has read these that is reporting. Why aren't you reporting on this shit? This is crazy. This is absolute craziness. Allie Tally, absolutely. Could not agree more. But to sit here and say, like, we will put you on the stand regardless of what you say. How are you going to put him on the stand? He has the right to remain silent, you fuck. What do you think? You're going to hurry up and have a trial for him before you go to Gardner and them? I'm not going to let that happen. The train has left the station. We will put you on the stand regardless what you say, ever lie or tell truth. What? Christina. Now this is where Stifler gets involved. Stifler wants to open up her mouth right here. Christine. I'm angry they, look at this. I'm angry they, white, rich people, picked you as a fall guy. Now she wants to play this card. This is sick. Hey, I'm going to enrage you by saying that these white people, you know, they have no problem with you being the fall guy. What? If it wasn't for Shanna Gardner and Mario's actually like their attorneys, this would have not this wouldn't be happening right now for Henry. They're advocating for him too. Okay. Christine Stifler. I'm angry. They, white rich people, picked you as a fall guy. How did they pick him as a fall guy if he was a co-conspirator, you stupid bitch? You said he got paid $150,000. The fuck are you talking about? Make up your choice. Make up your mind. What is it? Oh, well, that's right. Because it didn't ever go down that way, did it? And y'all knew it from jump. So stupid. What a stupid comment. And then says, Jamie Deal. Jamie Deal told us, and when we were talking to her deposing of Tina, Jamie Deal, Mario came in and out of your place at will. He thought he owned the place. She saw a change in you prior to the murder. Said you are a good person, but felt weight of the world was on your shoulders. Without them, this wouldn't have happened, Henry. Jared's family knows it is the truth. They pray. What? They pray, forgave you. They believe in you. Ready for this one? They're devoted Mormons. They love and respect you for what you did when owned up to it. That will something your sentence. That will, they are. And then, then the defense says, there are things I can't explain. They go left and right. And nobody's over here asking him what the fuck any of this means. There are things I can't explain. They go left and right. Alan then chimes back in. Please talk to Attorney Chipperfield. They leave after offer what? They leave after offer coffee something. I talked in private. He has been depressed. No future. And he wants to stick to story he told in sworn statement, and it's the truth. Okay? So this is really important. So he's like, go talk to Alan, Chipperfield. Go talk in private. We left for coffee, whatever. They're going to leave. Hey, we're going to go get coffee. We'll be back. Okay. Then somehow, ready for this? Oh, hey. Now Chipperfield says, I talked in private. He has been depressed. No future. He wants to stick to the story he told in a sworn statement. It's the truth. They return. Thank you. At depot, tell truth about this. Okay. And that's it. You see that? Because Henry Tenon was going to get deposed. He's like, at depot, tell truth about this. Tell truth about what? What the fuck are you talking? So let me explain how this works. In Florida, you have the ability to depose anybody prior to trial. And it's usually like an hour. Is like, you don't get to sit there for days or something. But you have to ask if you want more time, blah, blah, blah. So Henry Tenon was obviously always going to be on the list for the defense to depose prior to going to trial. And he's like, no. So this happens at the January, 13th, 14th, okay, of 2024. Then in February of 2024 or 2025, shit goes off the rails again because this is just what Alan Chipperfield, okay, look at this. If you actually look at these notes, it does not say, the defendant doesn't say anything, okay? So what you should see here is a reconvening, and it wouldn't be Alan Chipperfield telling, okay, these lawyers, hey, this is what's going on. He's sticking to the story. That's not how it should happen. We have a meeting, okay? And after you guys went and got your coffee, I talked to him privately. I'm not disclosing that anywhere in my notes about anything, okay? And okay, then we're back into this room, and Henry Tenon should be saying how he feels and what his decision is, okay? And guess what? That's just not what happened here. In black and white, we see that he says, I talked in private. That means Chipperfield. Chipperfield's writing this. I talked in private. He has been depressed, no future. He wants to stick to story he told in sworn statement and truth. And then what should have happened here is, hey, that's great, Alan Chipperfield. Like, you saying this, and I get that you don't want to have your client be saying anything, okay? But I don't know how this is going to play out because of what is already kind of on the record here. And you saying this to me doesn't mean dick, okay? Because that's exactly what ends up happening. Because guess what happens? People that actually have a brain, like Jose Baez and Diane and Jesse, who's the lawyer for Mario, he's fucking awesome. I love that dude. I just met him in this case, and I just think he's a phenomenal, like he's on it. Didn't know anything about him beforehand, but I'm telling you, he can make a name for himself in this case. He's doing a really, really good job, like phenomenal job. He's on it. And then Patrick Crody, he's awesome. But they're like, yeah, right. You want us to believe this shit? Because what do? They have a fucking hearing. They have a hearing. But look at how long this took. So they're dealing with all of these issues, right? And then here in the background, we now find out, first of all, we knew the case was just, it didn't organically grow. Like, you're leaving big chunks out, which is John Biggerstaff. Why aren't you arresting John Biggerstaff? He's the one with the 10mm gun. He's the one that's Mario's friend. He's the one that was, how does John Biggerstaff get left out? Oh, because he's basically the unindicted co-conspirator. And there's another unindicted co-conspirator, which is Jeremy Ordwell. Okay. And so what it looks like to me, that if we go and we just use our little brains here and we realize that Biggerstaff was identified in March of 2023, you guys really think that Biggerstaff was never talked to until what they try to claim is like August of 2023? After? Why would Biggerstaff be talked to after Henry Tenon and after Henry Tenon was arrested? When John Biggerstaff's name comes up in the reports, they know about him on March 4th of 2023. Is it because what? You attempted to talk to John Biggerstaff and he was like, listen, nope, you guys can just go that way. I know my rights and I'm not talking to you guys. Because why would John Biggerstaff be left out of everything that's turned over in the Mario Saldana case way before Shanna Gardner was, because she wasn't arrested for a while? Why are we hiding that? And then when it's not till Shanna Gardner gets arrested and then they have to go like a long while until you want to talk about, okay, here's John Biggerstaff's name finally coming up, and here we're going to be redacting all this, and Jeremy Ordwell, they basically are confidential informants, but really they should be indicted, because if you actually go off of the reports, so this is what they end up doing. Because let me stay on track with this with Henry. Henry finally is able to get, Alan Chipper. They make Alan Chipperfield a witness. Okay, so he can no longer represent Henry. He's gone. And then Henry gets this guy named Joshua, and then he's basically gone. And then he gets Julie, who he has right now. And it has taken since the time he has spoke out loud that he gave false testimony. That happened at the end of 2023, beginning of 2024. And here we are in 2026, and it's just making its way around court TV. Excuse me? How? How is this not like a huge deal? How is it not a huge deal that if you look through the reports, you're going to see that the ATF and detectives know that Henry was not the shooter. So and Henry didn't give any type of detail to the confession. For example, Mario Saldana's team was like, here, we have these deposition. We have a deposition for Henry, but as soon as he becomes a defendant that's not a cooperating witness, okay, you cannot depose him then. All right. You understand? So I was looking to see if they ever got the chance to depose Henry before becoming I'm pleading not guilty, yada, yada, yada. Anyway, you slice it and dice it, doesn't matter because we got the questions that Mario's team wanted to ask Henry. And you guys, it's like music to my ears because if you're going to be confessing to a murder and being the shooter and conspiring to do this, you would know every detail about how this fucking shit was going to go down. In like the Adelson case, when he's over there talking about, everything about it. Yep, a gun went off in the car. We went and we went to get paid. That the bills were stable. All that shit. We got a rental. We went down the one time. We didn't happen. All this crazy shit, right? That's detailed. Henry Tenon knows nothing. The state was objecting to these questions being asked by Mario's team in an interrogatory type session. Like, it'll just really help us narrow down our scope because we only have an hour with Henry. So, and it's just like voluminous shit. And so we just want to know these things before we go in, because then we can focus on, based on his answers, we know where we need to head for this deposition, because otherwise we're going to have to fill in a motion here for you allow us to have more time with him, because it's just, this man has only spoken 251 words on the record. 251 words, and the majority of those words are yes and no. He has given no detail about this crime, about how they said it would, play out. You guys said that there's 3 phones involved. You guys are saying that there's we cased the place, a couple weeks beforehand. But he doesn't say any of this to you ever. So we need to know just basic shit. Like, where were these 3 phones? Where was Mario? Where'd you guys meet up? What car did Mario come and meet you in? Don't you think that if you were planning something like this, you would know these answers? And why would the state have any problem with it? Yeah, ask them whatever the fuck you want. You're going to have a problem with it because it's going to totally blow up your case. So, for example, these are the questions that they wanted to ask. We'll use Hector here. How much did Fernandez allegedly agree to pay you to commit the homicide of Jared Bridegan? Do you understand that that's nowhere in any statement that they obtained from Henry Tenon? That simple question right there. Wait, Lana, what are you saying? I'm saying that in all of the conversations that they would have ever had with Henry Tenon, the state, they never have him in any recording saying how much did Mario Saldana Fernandez allegedly agree to pay you to commit the homicide of Jared Bridegan. How does that not get asked? And yet, how does Court TV saying that $150,000 was this number? Where did that come from? Because let me tell you guys something. Mario's team is not filing this. If that answer was, because this would be Judge Kite. I read through his statement. He says it right here. Next, in total, how much money did you actually receive from Fernandez for the homicide of Jared Bridegan? And it's like, wait, I thought we already know this too. Well, I don't know how we know any of this. The defense doesn't know because it's not in any documents. Number 3, if you received any money, how did you receive payment for the homicide of Jared Bridegan, including but not limited cash, check, crypto, PayPal, Venmo, and other online payment systems? Wait, that's not in the, why is the defense asking this? Because it's not any statements. And nobody's discussing this. Well, it gets worse. In the state's discovery, it is alleged that on the night of the homicide, there were several phones used in connection in the homicide. Who possessed and utilized each of the following phones on February 16th, 2022? 10 and 1 is this number, 10 and 2, 10 and 3. And then, guess what? That's not in there either? No. But there are different times that there's these 3 phones, but none of them are those phones. There's these other random people where the ATF is like, hey, these 3 phones should be of interest to you. And guess what the 3 phones belong to? Not a single person that is Henry, is John Biggerstaff, is Gardner, is Mario. Nothing. In the state's discovery, it is alleged that on January 29th, you, meaning Henry, and Mr. Fernandez drove together to St. Johns County, Jacksonville Beach, and back to the Potomac residence. What address or residence did you and Mario Fernandez leave from? Because it doesn't give an address that they were at. Like, where were they drove together from? You're telling me that this isn't in the statement? Well, then what the fuck is Maserati and Christina Stifler talking about when I just showed you all that shit? They're lying. They are lying. They've been lying. Stifler was basically an investigator in this case. She was an investigator just like Ashley Jennings was in the Idaho 4 case. Then, did you and Mario meet in person on January 29th, 2022? Wait, we don't have him saying this either? This is a really big important day. Because this is them trying to say that, remember, killers don't bring phones with them on the day of the murder, but they case the place, in front. How are you able to get Henry Tenon's device, location, and all that shit in August? The murder was in February of 2022. So how did you get all of this shit? Because we're the fucking federal government. We can get all this shit. There's no 7 days. Oh, okay. That's just all I wanted to know. Thank you. But, and then to say, If yes, where did you meet Mr. Mario Fernandez on that day? What vehicle did Fernandez drive to meet you? Because guess what? They have the infotainment center of his vehicles. They're not there. They're just making all this shit up. But more importantly, Henry never, every question that they're asking, we would already think that Henry Tenon gave this information up. This was asked in a, look at the date, 12/22/2025. Hey, we motion to issue interrogatories to co-defendant Henry Tenon. Where did Mr. Fernandez park his vehicle upon meeting you? Upon meeting Mr. Fernandez, where did you go and what did you do? Remember, he's in a meeting saying he's never even heard of this Nocati, whatever the heck it's called. He doesn't even know what you're talking about. Where's the media? This is why Jose Baez came out and said this is not what you think it is. This is not what you think it is. And John Biggerstaff was involved in trafficking, you guys. He was on a the government like most wanted list. Look into John Biggerstaff. Upon meeting Mr. Fernandez, where did you go and what did you do? Did Mr. Fernandez travel to the above places with you? If yes, did he bring his cell phone? Because his cell phone is not in any of these places that they claim that this, that they were together doing this. If he did not bring his cell phone, do you know where it was at the time? Did you meet or travel with anyone else besides Mr. Fernandez on January 29th, 2022? If yes, who did you meet and where did you travel? What date or approximate date, if unsure, did you admit directly to the state attorney's office or any representative thereof that you were involved and killed Jared Bridegan? And when I saw that question, I about fucking died. Absolutely died. I said, these motherfuckers don't even have a date of when he is specifically saying, hey, I am confessing. When is the first time that you ever told the state that you killed Jared Bridegan? Unbelievable. A defense should not be telling the world that they say they have a co-defendant who was a co-conspirator, and we have no documentation or in evidence in discovery of any of this shit that we're asking for. What were they going to plan on asking Henry on the stand? Henry doesn't know anything. But hey, you used him saying that he shot Jared and that, yep, Shanna Gardner and Mario hired you so that you could do what? What did you do after January to March, between January and February? Because this is really, really important. This date is really, really important because what was put in the search warrants in 2023 to obtain, to be able to get the arrest of both Shanna Gardner and Mario Saldana, but more importantly, even devices and Google search, all that shit. Because they did like multiple rounds of stuff. And here, I know for a fact they used all this for the grand jury. But it's all lies. He's not the shooter. So what did the state of Florida think was going to happen here? And then what did you think was going to happen when you guys took the death penalty off the table? And basically, why would Henry Tenon ever take your fucking plea deal then? Because the death penalty's off the table. Why didn't they ever go to sentencing in the 2 years after they obtained this supposed confession and all this shit? Why is it in writing? Why didn't he have to write out all this stuff that how it all happened and give a sworn statement like that? Where is any of this? Guess what, guys? It's not there. It's not there. They knew it. They knew he was not the shooter. Okay. And now how confident are you in then the state's case against, well, number one is Shanna Gardner. Okay. They did all of this off of, let me explain, off of where people were or weren't in vehicles. But why does Henry, where can you place Henry? And then they were able to get somebody to basically add to their statement in the most crazy way possible. There was there's a girl by the name of Allison, and she ends up getting married during all of this. But it's report 38 and then 59. And in report, she says, I'm sorry, 36, she says, they kept this from the defense. And I'll pull it up. And it's report 36. It's Allison Pressler and Rebecca Iannello. And they kept these two names, they kept this out of the discovery that they were kept on turning over. And then finally, they announced these two names. But the name of Allison, she gets married, and now it's like with an M. And they add to this woman's statements in an unrecorded meeting at the SAO's office. And I have it right here. I'm like, you guys are sick as fuck. This is wild. Let me pull it up. And I'm just like, when are people going to start talking about this? John Biggerstaff and Jeremy are getting deposed on the 25th and 26th of March. I want to know if, can we get some media in there? Let me see. Okay. It was, so you had the defense that was asking for stuff. Okay. So since I'm using this here, I'm going to show you guys some other stuff that's just crazy. This is the depositions that are coming up. This case is going to pop off. Like, you want to see corruption unfold? It's, okay. All right. On 11, here it is. So back in 2023, at the end of the year, 11/15/2023, this is how on it Mario Saldana's team was. They were like, holy shit, this prosecutor has been lying her ass off. And we are motioning to disqualify the 4th Judicial Circuit Office of the state's attorney. Okay. Comes now Mario. And I'm like, whoa, why? Well, because they use the fact that they were in contact with the prosecuting attorney and said, hey, we noticed that you guys are serving a search warrant on our client in February 6th before his arrest in March of 2023. Okay. And how I know that they got this search warrant, this date here, I believe that Henry Tenon would have had to confess before this date. All right. So this is what I wrote in my letter to Henry Tenon's attorney, as well as all the defense attorneys. I said, otherwise, I don't believe, like, this right here is a really important date, because I believe between January and February 6th, that's where this confession happened. Okay. And that he just signed his plea deal on March, whatever date it was, 16th of 2023. And then they arrested Mario for the murder, conspiring and all this stuff. But right here, it starts by saying that February 6th was when Mario Saldana was seized and detained by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, at which point law enforcement executed a search warrant for his vehicle and cell phone. Okay. And that's what Exhibit A is. Then here's where they took this Galaxy. And then now his attorney reaches out the next day and says, upon learning of the seizure and such devices, defense counsel immediately assigned the prosecutor, the assistant state attorney, Christina Stifler, a letter to alert her of the privileged communications and to ask that they refrain from reviewing the seized devices until a motion is filed and heard by the courts. See email, and I have that exhibit. Okay. He didn't do it at all. Tenon is not involved at all. 1000%. Henry Tenon was not involved at all. The only thing, well, you're going to see is that Henry Tenon said that a guy, not Mario, but a guy borrowed his truck early on, and then here's the detectives. They didn't want to listen to any of that shit. And it's like, listen to what he says, and why don't you ask questions based off of what he's telling you? And then after you go through all of that, then go back in there and say, okay, yeah, Henry, we don't believe the fucking word you're saying. Okay? But why aren't you, like, let him tell you whatever the hell he wants to tell you. Let him say whatever. Keep him going, use it against him then down the road. That's why it's my belief that they didn't want him talking. They didn't want him talking because he would make too much sense. So I don't believe that Shanna Gardner had anything to do with this. I believe that it was Mario. And I believe he did it because for the purposes of she was divorcing him and then he's going to be out. And it's like, well, if I go ahead and do this, then let me see you divorce, blah, blah. Plus it's going to, you're going to have to stay with me. His little cush lifestyle would be over. So, he knew of their problems. And I just think that he orchestrated this so that he could cash in on a big payday. But that's what the evidence is going to point to. Shanna Gardner was never kicking it with these people. But if you look at the situation and the nice little twist that the media wants to go with is that the only person that benefited from this was Gardner. She couldn't get to her trust. If she divorces him, that motherfucker's out. Then her parents can write up a new fucking way to have the whole trust because she divorced him. So then what? You think they're gonna leave Mario, who she just divorced, on their daughter's trust? She married Mario because Jared was against, no one's going to be around our kids unless you're married. That's why both of them got married so quickly right afterwards, because of this ridiculous, them wanting to be hard asses to each other. But if you actually go read that divorce and how it all played out, Jared left. And Gardner was having the kids all the time because he went to Utah. And there was a girl before who he married. And so, but they don't want to talk about any of that. So let's go back over here. Okay. So I'm only concerned with, okay, let's figure this all out. This is what the attorney's office did, though. You knew that there was client attorney privilege. You say, yep, we're going to have a taint team go through it. Okay. Well, look at the date here, though. what did I say in the beginning of the program? That ATF Butler, she got stuff when? In 2022, in July. That's what kicked all of this off. Was going through all of this shit in July, after July 5th, 2022 happened. When, you know, I don't know the date on when. I know that they had attorneys right away. So the scope of the deposition, though, was only about this motion. The first time that they had Lindsay Butler and Angel Navarro from the Secret Service in. So the scope of the deposition, he had only narrowed to this. So Lindsay and Angel did another deposition. And I can't remember if it was at the end of February or at the beginning of March. But I'm like, oh my God, they're going to get their asses just ate the fuck up. Dude, they're just getting destroyed because watch this. So here, Stifler knows this, and they say, hey, on February 17th, 2023, the court conducted, so I'll make this big as possible, a hearing on defense's motion, at which time the state agreed that any and all communications between the defendant and counsel were protected by a client-attorney privilege. The state further assured the court and defense counsel that a taint team was being assembled and that all privileged communications would be redacted before providing the remaining data to the state. Specifically, ASA Christina Stifler told the court this: I believe Mr. Dreiser's original motion did mention both attorney-client privilege and marital communication. In further conversations with Mr. Dreiser and Mr. Cox, who was Shanna Gardner's, the state's position is we agree that the state is not entitled, or not necessarily entitled, but we've agreed that we will abide by a plan between the attorneys and the state in order to make sure that we don't receive, or there are no disclosures of attorney-client communications. They have told me there is attorney-client communications on their clients' phones, and I am prepared to have whether a taint team or a magistrate judge just pull those electronics without ever opening them, encrypting them, and we will never see those. Do you see that? And I said to myself, why is she doing it this way? I said, why would Stifler ever go about it this way when you would just have a taint team? But why would you ever want to remove them and delete them for forever versus having a taint team? And then I said, oh, it's because how they did it in 2022. Okay. And they would then know that they reviewed stuff that they shouldn't have done back when Lindsay Butler did it in 2022. Because I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why you would agree to such egregious terms? Like, you didn't have to do it this way, but you're doing it like over, and it's because you want this stuff all gone. That way you can act like it wasn't there when Butler was looking at the shit in 2022. That just, again, this is my brain thinking. I'm like, let's see where this goes. Okay. Well, then she says, I would think Cellbrite would allow us to do that fairly easily. And I have spoken with my detectives and team. Okay. And we have an outsourced to an outside agency that could provide a taint team to do that. Unless they want a magistrate reviewing attorney-client privilege, we wouldn't even review the content. Listen to this. The taint team would just pull and delete everything. Delete it. And listen to this. And I'm over here like, you guys, this is, to me, this is, you would never do it like this. If you're the prosecutor, me delete forever. And I'm like, dude, this is what I was like. I started the shit out of this. I said, there's a reason she wants it done like this. And it's not for the defense's this is not for the defense. This is to cover their asses about something. Okay. So I said, this is going to come up down the road. I'm going to start digging into it now. So I started digging into all of this back and whenever this motion was filed. And hold on, let me. She says, comes from any phone number from any attorney in this room that is associated with either of the clients. Okay. Notice how she says phone number. Transcript of hearing on motion for protective order and additional relief. And then, you know, in the matter of the search of Sam. So this is now, remember, he's reminding the judge of everything that this woman said in that hearing. Okay. So Mario's attorney saying, hey, this is exactly how this all played out. Here's Exhibit E now. Now, in addition to Stifler, Lee Hutton was also present during the hearing on February 17, 2023, and joined ASA Stifler in assuring the court and the defense that all attorney-client communications would be considered privileged and would be redacted by a taint team. Specifically, ASA Hutton stated, I think the bottom line is we completely agree with the attorney-client privilege that we will figure out a process that's acceptable to both parties, and we'll figure out how to address that so that we do not have access to it. It's the marital privilege that's the issue. Okay, so through both, Dreiser and Mr. Cox expressed concerns over the use of a taint team, citing prior disclosures of attorney-client privilege phone calls in other cases. The state and the defense ultimately agreed that the defense would provide the state with the names, numbers, and email addresses. See that? Okay. She was just like, yeah, give me the phone numbers. No, and the email addresses of all individuals with whom the defense or who the defendants have privileged communications, and the state would have a taint team delete all such communications before receipt and review by the state. And I'm like, oh my God, they are so fucked. Because 2022s, they didn't do any of this. 2022, we have Lindsay Butler under oath saying that she got that shit right after July 5th, 2022, and she went to town. And why does that matter? Because literally 2-3 weeks later, Henry Tenon is in the tire. And then Henry Tenon goes to jail, and he's arrested off of bogus ass charges for, he gets pulled over for a traffic stop, which he wasn't doing anything to even get pulled over. It was, hey, let me see your license registration. Oh, it looks like you have a suspended license here. Okay, well, we're going to search your car. Oh, looks like you have a gun here. Okay, we're going to charge you with gun charges. We're going to do this and throw you ass in jail for 6 months. What? Then we're going to arrest you in January of 2023 for the murder and conspiracy to commit murder for Jared Bridegan. What? And then, oh, wait, now we're going to accept your confession, which is nowhere to be found, and all these details that you gave on how you guys conspired to do all this shit. But he can't answer one question. He doesn't know anything. And yeah. And then we're going to go ahead and get new search warrants for both Shanna Gardner and Mario Saldana. And then we're going to arrest Mario Saldana in March. And then we're going to arrest Shanna Gardner in August of 2023. Okay. Now, thus on February 22nd, 2023, the court issued an order denying the defendant's motion for protective order as it pertains to marital communications between Mr. Fernandez and Ms. Gardner. However, as the motion pertains to communications protected by attorney-client privilege, the court stated that the state has agreed that any communications protected by the attorney-client privilege will be removed from devices, not like walled off, but apps removed. Okay. Counsel for both sides are working together to identify, sending, and receiving phone numbers, emails, so that these attorney-client privilege communications may be removed. Accordingly, any argument regarding attorney-client privilege material appears to be moot. Okay, now, here comes in Angel Navarro, Secret Service. Now, following the court order on February 24, 2023, defense counsel sent the assigned ASA another email that identified all members of the defense legal team and provided their phone numbers and email addresses. See email from Shannon Day to Stifler. It's Exhibit G. I'm going to show you guys all of these. Defense counsel also provided the assigned ASA with all contact information for that firm, who was previously represented by Miss Gardner. Email from Shanna Day to, and that's Exhibit H. Now, on that same day, February 24th, I then have the depositions from transcripts of Angel Nazario's deposition taken on February 13th and transcript of Lindsay Butler's deposition taken on the 14th. Okay. Oops. Angel. Were you initially asked to participate in the forensic examination, and then later did your role change to be part of a filter or a taint team? Answer. Yes, sir. That's correct. All right. So does that make sense? Approximately February of 2023, you were just going to be part of a data retrieval. Is that right? That's correct, sir. And do you know what that would have entailed? It would have involved doing data extractions of electronic media that the Jacksonville Beach Police Department had seized up until that point. You see that? Up and until that point. That would be the 2022 shit as well. I did not have the specifics as to the number of devices or the makes specifically. Do you recall if that was Detective Johns or Detective Lamont? Then here, both Detective Johns and Detective Lamont were part of a meeting that we later had where we discussed all the evidence that were seized. That meeting took place on the 27th of February. Okay. Now let's go back. Whoo-wee. Bring in the goods, guys. This is... I will challenge anybody on Court TV to talk about this case and have me present. I will challenge anybody to talk about this case, period, and have me present. Okay, this is what this... what Stifler and Mazarahi have been involved in is absolutely disgusting. Next. Now, so following the court order on February 24th, defense counsel sent, I just told you guys this. Then the assigned ASA responded to the email and informed the defense counsel, I am going to proceed with the download of Mario's phone with instructions to LEO to delete, redact, remove attorney communications. Due to the timing being a little later than anticipated, Secret Service will do the download, but cannot provide a taint agent. So ATF is going to bring up an agent from Miami who is sanitized from the case to redact the attorney communications. You lying ass hoe! Stifler wrote that on. Look at, here's your Secret Service guy. He's like, I'm doing the taint. I'm extracting and doing the taint. Look at what this hoe wrote. Okay? Look at what this hoe wrote. Stifler, you are a piece of lying sack of shit. She says, due to the timing being a little later than anticipated, Secret Service will do the download, but cannot provide a taint agent. Excuse me? So ATF is going to bring up an agent from Miami who is sanitized from the case to redact the attorney. Do you want to know why she did this? Because she was trying to label Lindsay Butler as the taint agent. I'm dead. What are you doing, Stifler? So here, this was email from ASA Christina Stifler to Shannon, February 24, 2023. Okay. Despite the state's repeated assertions that any and all attorney-client privilege communications would be removed or otherwise deleted by a Taint team, on September 27th, 2023, undersigned counsel, meaning Stiffy, and the assigned ASA had a conversation. So undersigned counsel, meaning Jesse, I'm sorry, and the assigned ASA, which is Christina, Maserati, whoever the fuck, had a conversation at the Duval County Courthouse in which Mr. Dreiser believed the ASA referenced privileged information. Listen to this. Specifically, the assigned ASA told undersigned counsel she found incriminating evidence against the defendant and that this evidence consisted of a Word document titled Confidential Communications. And now this is where I'm like, oh my God, Lana, do your thing. Okay, I will. I was like, oh my God, this is Butler. Butler fucking called. Butler was going through everything. Butler found everything, but Butler found shit in 2022 and 2023. Hold on though. And she's just been little Stiffy's little right hand because Butler's been on the case since the second day as the criminal researcher. She's like a me. It's like I would be your right hand. Okay. Anything that you want to know and I get to use all of your fun fucking shit. Oh my God, let's go. Who do you want to fuck? Let's go. What are we finding? Give me some names, whatever you want. I'll tell you everything. And then I'll put it all together for you. And I'll connect all your dots. And I'll build you a timeline. Right? Hooey. Well, Jesse, the man, all over it. He's like, girl, we got you. So specifically, I just, showed you guys that. Now, in a footer, it should be noted that both defendants have filed writs appealing this order and are awaiting a ruling from the 5th District Court. Now, okay. Where defense counsel had previously advised the defendant to write confidential communications. Remember I told you guys about this? So the defense counsel was like, hey, from jump, anything that you send me, you're going to write confidential communications in the subject line of any email to the defense attorneys and legal staff. Undersigned counsel believed that this document had been intercepted by privileged attorney-client communications. Now, concerned that the state had received and reviewed emails between Mr. Fernandez and defense counsel, as well as any and all attachments to emails between defendant and defense counsel, undersigned counsel sent the assigned ASA another letter outlining their concerns regarding privileged information. See email from Shannon Day to ASA Christina Stifler. Again, September 27th, 2023. Attached here too as Exhibit J, which I'll show you guys. Now, on September 28th, the assigned ASA responded, we had a Taint agent remove all attorney communications for both defendants and firms. Now, that is an absolute lie. An absolute lie. Ready? So, okay, so ready? So, is it fair to say, this is Angel, he's being questioned. So is it fair to say that all of the devices that were handed to your team at that February 27th meeting, that was raw data that had never been, ciphered through or filtered through? To extract any attorney-client communications or work product? That's correct. Oh my God. At that meeting, do you have any recollection or notes that would reflect who at that time was going to be a filter or a Taint member, agency, or person? I can't remember who from our team said that we would take care of it. I believe it was SAC Scargirl, and asked, since I was going to be doing the extractions, if I could also do the Taint review. And I said, I just need a list of some sort of indicating what, the way to identify messages and whatnot as privileged communications. And it was during that meeting that I believe Detective John said that he had an email he was forwarding me with the list of the defense attorneys working this case, which I received later that morning. That was a message forwarded by Christina Stifler that had the documentation of the 2 attorneys' offices involved in this case, just the 2 attorney offices involved in this case. It's like, what? There's way more because they had more attorneys back then. And I assume you just were referencing by picking up the letter for the... He's like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have copies of the reports, the letters and whatnot here to the left of me, and that's what I'm referring to, just to give you more specifics for you. Question. Now, I asked you, had you ever been part of a taint or filler team? You said you had not. Had you ever had any training on being a taint or a filler? No. Filter? No, I had not. Okay, so after the 27th meeting, your agency and yourself are now in possession of all of these devices that contain all of this information. What did you do with it? When did you get to work? We started examining the devices to figure out, if they were on, if they were off, if they needed to be powered up right away. It was recommended that we look first at the Samsung Galaxy A13, as well as the, going blah, blah, blah. Now, okay. Now, this is how he got the shit. Okay. When we tried obtaining data extraction from the T-Mobile one, we determined that we were unable to do so with that tool. So we took it upon himself to take that tool to his station, to the Cellbrite Premium, blah, blah, blah. Okay, question. And do you know if in around this February 27th, 2023 time period, any copies of any of these devices were made by any agencies, or were you in possession of all of the originals, uncopied originals? Ready? As far as I know, any copies that we obtained, we have the originals of that. Documentation of that data, if that's what you're asking. Well, I think what I'm asking is, did Detective Johns or anyone else from Jax Beach or any other law enforcement agency mirror any of the devices before they handed you all copies of them? Here it is. To the best of my knowledge, no. Not for that, not for the devices, no. Huh? Here she comes to wreck the day. Now, much of what you just told me about, needing extra time and additional software that was documented in some of the emails, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Right here. Yep. Gotcha. Okay. He's like, yep. And we would have had, so again, this goes to how did Lindsay Butler get her shit, right? Okay. Ready? So if I had any questions, I would reach out to the prosecutor, and that would have been Miss Stifler. Wait, there are no filter between you and the very prosecuting agency in which we were attempting to make sure never was in possession of our communication? You would just ask that very person if it was confidential? I know that, well, initially I reached out to either Detective Johns or Detective Lamont about, I had a question with regards to whether it was a message or a document that I was able to recover to speak to her. And then I think after that, like the second or third request, she just said for me to reach out to her directly, which is what I did. Here she comes to wreck the day. Stifler, you're the one that's picking and choosing. Oh, here, send it on over. I'll tell you if it's client attorney privilege. Excuse fucking crazy. Okay. Okay. Here's the next one. Ready? In March, do you recall telling Detective Lamont that you would, this is somewhere between March 15th and March 23rd, that you would start working on redoing his exam to remove the privileged communication unrelated to your case? Ready? Wait, what? So, ready? Here's me. I'm like, yeah, this is where we're getting the good stuff. Wait, so Lamont had already done this? Wait, what? Would you start working on redoing his exam to remove the privileged communication unrelated to your case? Yes. Tell me, what did you mean by redoing and start working on redoing? What does that mean? Basically, the parameters for privileged communications that I was provided was strictly for this investigation. After I had submitted and completed my analysis or my taint review and provided it to him, the state's attorney's office indicated that there was some what they deemed as privileged communication pertaining to some VA claim that your client had unrelated to this investigation. And I was asked to redo that exam and remove those items pertaining to that VA claim. Oh, so it is my understanding that by March 23rd, okay, so he says, so is it my understanding that by March 23rd of 2023, some approximately 2 weeks later, you had already completed your filter process of the device that you were given? Not all of them, no, sir, because of the nature of this investigation. Request had been made as I was been made as I finish a device, submit the report for the device, and move on to the next device. I did not submit all of them all at the same time, which is amazing. Can you tell me when you submitted in the March what you had completed to the state's attorney's office? What device was that for? If you'll excuse me, let me go look at my computer. Take your time. Yes, sir. Okay. Oh, it looks like I completed the exam initially on the 21st of March. As to what device? Actually, hang on one second. That would have been the Galaxy A13. And that was Mr. Fernandez's device. See that? That's correct. Yes, sir. Huh. And in no way, shape, or form am I asking you to reveal the contents of what you may have filtered out. Okay. And he's like, okay. So I just want to be very clear on that. But my question now that you understand that, did you remove and filter communications between my office and Mr. Fernandez? Yes. That's what I had initially done when I first submitted the exam. I wasn't trying to be a trick question or anything. He's like, no, I don't take it that way. He's like, I just want to make sure we understand that you were successful in your job. Yes, sir. You did what you were asked to do. Yes, sir. Then upon their review, they found what they believed possibly may have been more privileged information. They tightened it up. Yes, sir. That's correct. When you filtered out a communication, what did you do with it? Hypothetically, you find an email between me and Mario, and obviously you're not going to give that to the state. And here's where Stifler gets fucking outed. He's like, correct, I wouldn't give it to the state. He's like, did you delete it? Did you save it? Did you put it on a jump drive? Part of the reporting that we do is we generate a reader report for the software that we use. Any items that I deemed as privileged communication, I would tag it as privileged communication. And when the time came to generate the report, I had the ability to filter out those items that I had tagged as privileged communications so that it would not be generated in the report that was provided. So I didn't delete it or remove it from the device or anything like that. Boom. Fucked. There it is. That means, yeah, we basically just called you in so that we could say that we had this and we offered this and this is what we use, but this isn't really what we did. We've been just going through whatever we wanted, whenever we wanted, because nothing was deleted. It gets better. We'll come back to good old handy. And then he's like, he has to ask, okay, just so we have this correct, you didn't delete anything, right? No, I never deleted anything off of that. I just simply created a report that made it so that you couldn't read that. But now the question is all you have to do is say, fuck your report. Here, yeah, here's what we're going to give that. Hey, this is what we did. Here you go. But what are they working off of? Because guess what got uploaded to Next Point? And this is how this all got found out. These dumb motherfucking criminals uploaded to Next Point, not the work of angels. When they uploaded the original, because that's what they have to work off of, it uploaded to Next Point and everything was there. And there's even more. Ready? There was like 600 communications. Guess what? Angel, when he got the report, he only found 66 during his time of doing it. And so that's going to come up around now for the second deposition that just happened. Oh, God. Oh, God. I can only imagine what a field day they had. Because it's not this dude's fault. This guy did nothing wrong. It's not the people that you're bringing in. It's what these fucking prosecutors and these detectives think that they're doing. And then they get people to do this shit. And it's just like, yeah, I did my job. This is what they told me to do. Oh, so you were never told to delete it? You know? So we're going to get into this. But this is some egregious shit. So here's me. The Taint agent forwarded to us for review, and based on what... Okay, now, so here, I got to start back up here. Okay, so remember, concerned that the state had received and reviewed emails between Mr. Fernandez and the defense counsel, as well as any and all attachments to emails between defendant and defense counsel, undersigned counsel sent the assigned ASA another, hey, we reached out to you September 27th, and we said, you know, what the fuck's going on? Because this is why. Because you saw me in the courtroom, or you saw me at the courthouse, and you said and made some comment that, like, yeah, I found some incriminating shit on your fucking client, man. And then so this is why this gets written up, because I just had conversation with you. And so he puts that in the email. Okay. So then on September 28th, the assigned ASA responded to the defense counsel's letter and said the following. Okay. And states, we had a Taint agent remove all attorney communications for both defendants and firms. You see that? This is what Stifler fucking put in writing. September of 2023, saying we had somebody remove. The discovery we discussed was not attached to an email, did not show any attorney names or emails, and did not contain attorney-client discussions. The Taint agent forwarded to us for review, and based on what he advised, do you see this? He, Lindsay Butler, okay? Lindsay Butler is a female. This is how I caught it again of her lies. Lindsay Butler is the one that forwarded to Stifler about this, what she found, like this timeline, okay? But here, she's presenting it to the boys here, the defense counsel, as that a guy he advised and deemed, okay, so whatever was sent to her, Lindsay, Stifler is trying to say that it was sent by a guy, okay? It specifically is asked in here if that ever took place. Angel's asked that. He's like, no, I didn't find anything that said confidential or no. Like, and I forwarded it to her. No, I just only had questions. I never sent her anything. Okay. Because guess who did it? Lindsay Butler. So when she says the taint agent forwarded to us for review, and based on what he advised, I determined that nothing would suggest it was privileged at the time. Thank you for that information. And I said, Butler was not a taint agent, and she is not a he. Stifler tried to make it seem like Angel found the material, not Butler. I said, holy shit. I said, this is fucking girl, you need to be in jail. I said, then it says email from ASA Christina Stifler to Shannon Day. Here's Exhibit K. Then October 16th of 2023, undersigned counsel sent the assigned ASA an email with a list of outstanding discovery items, including but not limited to the confidential communications Word document and information regarding the location and discovery of this document. So then what they do, now this is how you know when you have a really good attorney and they're fighting for you. Okay, well, where's this? You've been sending us discovery, right? Where's this bullshit that you pull me aside and tell me that you have this incriminating shit on my client, blah, blah, blah. Send me it. Send me it. Send me the location of where you found this. Send me the actual document. Let me see what the fuck you're talking about, right? Do you know to date that has never been, like, wait till this gets going. They never sent it, okay? So here on October 16th, undersigned counsel, hey, give me that Word document and information regarding the location and discovery of this document. The undersigned ASA responded to each item listed in the defense email and provided the following information regarding the confidential communications document. Here you go. Advised by defense, they were already in possession of defense counsel via letter to counsel. Document in possession of the state provided 10/13/2023. The location information will be provided on receipt. Investigators are still processing the Google return in order to detaint and analyze the evidence. This document was flagged for review by the state ahead of the entire exhibit being ready. Will be provided upon receipt by the state. You guys, this is all fucking lies. Well, Anna, how do you know that? Because Angel was fucking deposed. And that's why they're asking him. So then they say, okay. Ready for this? Okay. Okay, so question. So do you have any knowledge, and to be very clear, you weren't done with that process until September of 2023? I believe that is correct, sir, based on the records that I have here, because he's talking about the Google stuff, okay? And he's saying that, so with your understanding, should have had any other law enforcement agency been analyzing or going through those returns before your filter work was done? And he's like, it shouldn't have happened if that's what you're asking me. Nobody should have gone through any of the Google shit before me. And so he's like, my understanding is when I received the documentation, that's when the filter process began. Angel, okay? I returned a finished product back to the entity, which is Jack's Beach. Question. And I asked you this before, very specifically to the devices. So I'm going to ask you very specifically to the Google returns so that we're crystal clear on those returns. You were successful in your assignment task. You were able to find, locate, and remove. And he said, yes, sir. And when you would have sent the returns back and the devices back, that should have eliminated for viewing. I know it doesn't eliminate because you've explained that, but it should have eliminated for viewing to law enforcement and prosecutors what it was that you filtered out. Okay. And he's like, any returns that I got that was unparsed, say for example, they provided me a drive with the return. And I'm like, oh my God, wait a second. He didn't do. That means it was provided to him from Jack's Beach. It did not come from Google. I did not make any modifications to that return. What I provided them was a report parsing the data in a format that was able to be read. I did not change any sort of evidence. I did not make any sort of alterations. All I did was generate a report that had the data parsed in an easy to read format, removing any privileged communications from just that report. And then understood. So all those items in the original returns are still going to be there. I did not touch or modify any of them. Question, but not to be viewed by anyone else, right? Correct. Question, since your work on this case, and it hasn't been, very long, have you taken any continuing education or received any informal or formal training on being a taint or filter agent? No. So this is your one and only work in this field. That is correct, sir. Did you ever talk to anyone at Next Point? No. The sharing platform? No, sir. Did you ever directly upload anything to Next Point? No, sir. Are you familiar with an agent or USA Assistant Attorney Daniel Mitchell? Agent Mitchell, yes. What was his involvement in this case? So we're going to get into that in a minute, but we have to go right here now. And he asks, do you think it was closer to 60 or 600 returns? He's like, I think it was like somewhere around 60. Okay, now he says, ready? Okay, this is fucking gonna just. He says, oh my God, they're going down, 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 down. Question. And there are 2 Google returns that I'm aware of in this case. One was received July 5th of 2022. It may have not been received by you. I think that's when it was received by, the return from the detective. He got it. He's like, hang on one second, sir. Okay, sure. Yeah. The 2 Google returns that I received were in August 21st, 2023. Question. That's when you received them. Answer. That is correct, sir. Question. Okay. If you had them in front of you, it may be possible that it was June 27, 2023, when Detective Johns received the return from Google. Entirely possible. Like I said, I don't know when he received them. Okay. I know that I received them on the 21st, and that's when I started working on them. And he's like, of 2023, correct? That is correct, sir. And what month again? August. August. Yes, sir. And so you received both Google returns at the same time. Yes, sir, I did. And what was your instruction as to extracting the data and filtering that data? Basically, to do the same thing that I had done with the devices. In this case, if I'm not mistaken, they were recorded on, excuse me one second, sir. I received thumb drives that contained the Google return for Mr. Fernandez and for Miss Gardner. This is so fucking good. Wait, you received these on thumb drives? How did Lindsay Butler say she got hers? Remember thumb drive? Remember Lindsay Butler said that she went and took it and got it and used, and she got hers from Detective Johns, but it was July right after it. Remember I told you guys this? This is so fucking sick. Butler's going down like a motherfucker. Stifler's going down like a motherfucker. All these people are going the fuck down. Because here it is. Oh, God, this is fucking just amazing. You corrupt pieces of shit. Angel's like, yeah, I received thumb drives that contain the Google returns for Mr. Fernandez and Miss Gardner. And do you know if those were the originals copies that Detective Johns or Detective Lamont had made? Do you have any sense of what was given to you? I couldn't tell you if it was the originals or copies. All I know is I received the thumb drives. Yeah, those are fucking Lindsay Butler's thumb drives. And that's what I worked off of, sir. Ready? Oh, is that right? And after reading an enormous amount of communications in this case, my question is, did you receive the entirety of the Google returns, or did you get pieces of the Google returns? More specifically, a file that was titled email. I don't recall the specific contents of each folder. I know there were numerous folders that came back from the return for both accounts. I believe there was one entitled emails. And is it your understanding that you were asked to go through all of it, not just the emails files? Correct. Yes, sir. To look for what you could be attachments or letters, maps. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Timelines, all the things I asked you about earlier. And if you didn't receive them until August of 2023, it's fair to say you could not have filtered anything prior to that date, right? Butler, you're a fucking lie. And so is Stifler. And he's like, well, duh. Ready? He's like, correct. When did you finish filtering both Google returns? Well, it looks like September 6th and September 7th was when I completed the 2 exams. And then on the 8th was when I delivered them to Jack's Beach. Can't wait for this. This is so fucking amazing. Oh. Question. In the state's response to our motion to disqualify their office, I want to read this to you so maybe you can help me understand. This is from page 2, the second paragraph. The emails obtained from the Google search warrant are still in the process of being reviewed by the Taint agent. And this was filed in December of 2023. Were you still working and filing and reviewing anything after September of 2023? I'm sorry, their response was November 29th. So November 29th, were you? He's like, November 29th? Yeah, were you still reviewing, filtering, anything at that point? I know that we had the 2 MacBooks that Detective Padilla had been working on still because we were unable to get into that device. I completed my last exam, I believe, on October. Actually, no, I'm sorry. That is a different case. So this case, I want to say that was the last of my exams, were the 2 that I delivered. I know there was some discussion about, okay, and I know you mentioned Detective. Okay, we're going to get to that. So, yeah. And then this guy was trying to get into the Zoom. So he's like, okay. Then he says, okay, for just the devices, he was assigned, okay, boom, boom. I believe they were. So that's just like trying to sort that through. And he's like, okay. Okay. He's like, okay. When you say devices, you mean reviews as well, like Google returns. He's like, oh yes, and the Google returns. I apologize. Because that's all I was doing was the devices and the Google returns. And then here it is, his answer. And the Google returns, yes, I apologize, yes. And it was basically electronic media. I do not recall I do not recall what it was that she was requesting a taint review of. Lindsay Butler wanted something from him. But I ended up speaking with Detective Johns. I believe it was Detective Johns about this issue, as it was unclear as to why I was doing something other than electronic devices for a taint review. And then he's like, and then I can't believe, and he's like, stops himself because he wanted to say, and then I can't believe, but he's like, and then I can't believe, I can't remember if it was him or Detective Lamont said not to worry about the taint review, that I was being asked by the ATF that it was going to be handled a different way. Well, question. Your understanding is the whole point of your work was to make sure that no one else besides you for the devices or the returns that you first extracted were to have access to any confidential communications or documents that you may come across before it's turned over to the prosecutors and law enforcement. Is that correct? You just confused me a little there. He's like, well, I didn't mean to at all. He's like, I appreciate you saying that because I don't want that to be the case. Okay. So I think I made it very clear that you were assigned some devices. Yes, sir. And some returns, right? Yes, sir. When it came to these things that you had in your possession to filter, was it to make sure that before those returns or devices were turned over to law enforcement or prosecutors, that information that you may find is filtered out to protect the privilege between the lawyer and the client? He says, that is correct, sir. And I've asked you this before, and I'm going to ask you again to make sure we're crystal clear. That can be contained within a Google return anywhere besides an email. And he's like, yes, absolutely. And he says, yes, sir. So the moral of all of this, okay, is that Lindsay Butler had the devices, had the Google returns in 2022 and was going all up and through them as a criminal researcher in this case. And this is all fruit of the poisonous tree. Everything. And then they tried to lie about it. Because we're going to come back to this. And when I saw this, I'm like, this is the most egregious shit I've ever fucking seen. And I cannot believe that this is not getting more space. And it's like, what the fuck? So remember, she writes in her email and says, hey, the location information will be provided on receipt because they're still working on it. Do you see this right here? This was a month after they've already had it because he was done with his shit September 8th. Angel. Secret Service. His report. And I said, this is all lies. Butler found this material, not Angel. Angel finished his work prior to this date. Okay. And the other thing is that Butler found this material, not Angel. It's because Butler found that shit in 2022. Come on down. When Butler was acting as... So then we see that was the email from Christina. Curiously, through the assigned ASA, claimed the Taint team was still processing the Google return in order to detaint and analyze the evidence. Undersigned counsel had received defendant's Google return via external hard drive from the state on or before September 21st, 2023. Fuck you. Fuck you and fuck you. Look at this shit. Like, look at this. Despite repeated requests for the state to provide a copy of the confidential communications, the Word document, and information regarding the location and discovery of this document, no information or documentation has been provided to the defense counsel. It's like, where is this? Where did you find it? As this court is well aware, the volume of discovery in this case is so great that the state's attorney's office had to create a special web-based portal, Next Point, to provide discovery in this case, and that this portal took months to complete. Thus, it wasn't until October 20th, 2023, that the defense counsel received access to the state's discovery via Next Point. Much to the dismay of defense counsel, upon reviewing the discovery provided via this portal, counsel discovered many of the email communications between Mr. Fernandez and his attorneys. See emails between the defendant and his defense counsel, which have been referenced in Exhibit M. I said, the copy uploaded, it was not Angel's. Oh my God. And then I said to myself, wait, it was because he did a read only. And when they actually put the raw data up there, the raw data would have everything. These sick bastards. They're just about like it's disgusting. And then I said, wait a second, but the Angel never uploaded it. You guys saw he was asked, did you ever upload anything to Next Point? He's like, no, I did not. I don't even know who these people. No, all I did was I provided here it is. That's all my involvement was. So they're so corrupt. Though undersigned counsel has located, look at this. Though undersigned counsel has located nearly all of their emails with the defendant on the Next Point portal, as of this filing of this motion, counsel has yet to locate the email containing the confidential communications attachment. Because then it was like this. So listen to what they did. Okay. At that point, if you're uploading something that was, it should all be there, okay? Because it's not going off of the read report. It's going off of the actual extraction itself, the raw data. That's how they're trying to explain that this happened, right? And I'm like, well, if it went off of the raw data, then it would have this document because that's in the raw data because it was never deleted. And then I said, oh, no. They were trying to use Lindsay Butler as their first taint person, the ATF, And then they saw that, holy shit, her name got mentioned in a report. And then she quickly had to try to do something else, but it was already too late. Lindsay had that shit and used that shit after July 5th of 2022 and tried to use client attorney privilege information to then go and lie about Henry Tenon and find Henry Tenon and go this route into Henry Tenon. Why would you need to do that? Don't know. There was nothing there. In fact, what Mario is trying to say is, and I think it'll come out, but it was about providing a timeline of everything to his attorneys of like what the hell has been going on. Because that's what your attorney would want. But this wasn't in an email. This was in a Google Drive. And they annihilate Lindsay Butler in this deposition. So here, thus the discovery of such emails further supports defense counsel's prior assertion that the state has received, reviewed, and intends to use client attorney privilege information as evidence against the defendant in this case. And I'm over here like, and more importantly, they lied about who found the material because they were trying to make it seem like Lindsay Butler did not find it in 2022 because it's all fruit of the poisonous tree. Everything that they did against Henry Tenon came from Mario Saldana creating an email, but then the email having a Google Drive. Okay. And this Google Drive document had a bunch of attachments. And Lindsay Butler went through it all. It should be noted that the assigned ASA copied the following individuals on this email. Look at all these people. Because the question would be because who uploaded the version to Next Point? And I believe that it was Detective Johns or Detective Lamont. And that because they were the original ones that gave Lindsay the thumb drive. And so it was from their working like the one that they were working off of the entire time, which means Lamont and all of them. And then what they did is they planted that fucking tire. These people are sick. These people are fucking sick. And they're going to get caught. And I'm telling you, this trial is going to be off the chain. Amazing. It's going to show you guys what corruption is and how people use people, such as like experts, or get people to do something and This person has no idea that I have no idea what they're claiming. But see, if this would have happened in a different state, there's no depositions. Every state needs to allow depositions, okay, prior to a criminal trial, because this shit is going on and it's disgusting. But if these depositions if you weren't able to do this, then none of this would have been able to be found out. Not on this type of a level. But this is all corruption, and this is prosecutorial misconduct. This woman, Stifler, should lose her fucking license. And Maserati too. And Nelson, all these people. This is sick. Now, even more shocking, though, undersigned counsel has not read the contents of the communications. Counsel has also uncovered emails between the co-defendants, Shanna Gardner and her attorneys. They're up there. Moreover, as of the date of this filing, this motion, undersigned counsel has uncovered at least 66 emails that are protected by attorney client privilege and should have been redacted and deleted by the Taint team. Remember the whole deleted? Like, it shouldn't even have an option to be up there. I said the phones, the Google went through by Butler prior to search warrants obtained. Prior to Taint, Stifler tried to claim that Butler was a Taint agent at first, then realized how much that's going to blow up. Everything began to be backpedaled once Jose Baez's name was on the ticket. Yeah! Woo, woo. Jose Baez literally gets on the ticket and everybody shat themselves in the Jacksonville Beach Police Department and over there in Nelson's fucking office, because Shanna Gardner wasn't arrested until August. Okay. And Jose Baez makes his appearance there just a little bit after. Okay. And he gets on the ticket, and then all of this shit's coming down the pipes because they arrested everybody so staggered. So he's getting in on things when Mario's team is in the midst of doing this. Okay. And Jose Baez is like, what the fuck is going on? Like, he just got hired a couple months before this filing, when they're talking about this, in 2023 in, October and November. Jose Baez was just entering. Okay. Shanna Gardner had just got arrested in August, but Mario was arrested in March. And if you look at the difference of what the discovery looks like that Mario was provided, okay, and then here Shanna Gardner gets stuff on 11, 15, or 16 in 2023, and you compare the two, Shanna Gardner's discovery is 23 pages and Mario's was 8. You don't do this when people are guilty. You don't need to do any of this shit. Now, furthermore, as the filing of this motion, undersigned counsel has uncovered at least one recorded phone call between Ms. Gardner and her defense counsel. The discovery of such privileged emails, documents, and calls is especially troubling given the great lengths defense counsel took to prevent. Now, then they look at all these people that got put on this next point shit. Alan Chipperfield, all up in this shit. Why? Why? Where the state has prohibited defense counsel from communicating with Next Point employees outside of the state's present, defense counsel cannot contact Next Point to inquire about the breadth of breach. Nevertheless, undersigned counsel has confirmed that defendant's privileged emails has been exported from the portal by this person, the co-defendant of Shanna Gardner. And there's that. Given the number of people now that have access to these emails, it is impossible for the defense counsel to determine the scope and severity of this breach in confidentiality. Thank you. You guys, this is just, this is crazy. And like, Jared deserves justice, right? They think we were all stupid. Yeah. And then you know what? Mary, fuck the media. Fuck the mainstream media. This is what they're putting out there right now. They literally held Shanna Gardner on 2015 text messages about funeral potatoes, about making Jared a magician, making him disappear, threatening 50 and 60-year-old women to say, oh, you conspired with Shanna Gardner back in 2015 and 2016, and if you don't give us what we want, we're going to fucking put you on the ticket for a co-conspirator. Fuck you. Off of 2015 and 2016 text messages about asking if you know a magician. Are you kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding me? And they're saying, yep, Detective Johns is like, yep, they were talking in code. Shut the fuck up. Give me a break. So Shanna Gardner's been looking for a hitman for what? 7 years? Okay. All the lies. Then specifically, the assigned ASA has expressed her intent to use a document titled Confidential Communications as incriminating evidence against the defendant, where defense counsel had previously instructed the defendant to write confidential communications in the subject line of all emails and title all attachments the same. That's the attachment that Butler found. Counsel immediately suspected the state's attorney's office had to be in possession of privileged attorney-client communications. However, despite the great lengths defense counsel went through to ensure and maintain the confidentiality communications between themselves and their clients, it's basically like the state's attorney's office fucking, this is what they did. We had found all this shit on the Next Point portal. And in order for these assholes to stay on the case, they basically had to tell, look at this. So this is what we have in the pipeline here. Jeremy and John Biggerstaff. And then March 26th, Lindsay Butler and Angel Nazario. Come on down. Let's get with it. Let's start exposing all of this. And then let's go back over to how they changed the statements of a witness. This poor woman, God, she's got to be freaking out. He's like, I didn't say that. So here she is. We have to get to the, where does she give out this? Hold on. What do they want here? Motion requesting specific discovery. Okay. Hold on, we got to get more of this. Hold on. I got to show you guys some of this other shit. She just releases. They totally changed this girl's statements. Okay. So they've been trying to get shit forever. Take a look at this. Motion requesting specific discovery. This was on 2/5/2025, right? On March 15, 2023, Mr. Tenon provided a sworn statement in which he implicated Mr. Fernandez in the crimes for which he's been charged in this case. As of the filing of this motion, the March 15, 2023 sworn statement is the only testimony that has been made by Mr. Tenon and provided to the defense. On February 4th, 2025, the defense received an email from the state that contained a hyperlink to additional discovery. Upon downloading this material, defense counsel discovered the transcript of proceeding status hearing of State versus Henry Tenon on January 13, 2025, which has been attached here to as Exhibit A. As contained in the attached transcript, Mr. Tenon in no uncertain terms informed the court that he wanted to bring to the court's attention that his prior testimony was false testimony. Mr. Tenon goes on to request another attorney. No further action is taken by the court regarding this request by Mr. Tenon. Okay, remember, so I'm just refreshing all of our memories of like, this is what has gone on in this case. They kept this man, Henry Tenon, from being in the courtroom. Then another filing here. This was 2/12/2025. They're like, we need to see his jail calls, man. Like, what has gone on here? So on March 16, 2023, defendant was arrested for 1 count of murder. In the first degree, Henry has been listed as a co-defendant in Mr. Fernandez's case. Mr. Tenon case has been filed under this number. Okay, so we need this. We need that case number there. On November 15, 2023, the state filed a discovery exhibit which listed jail calls, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. On or about the same date, the defense has received 1 batch of jail calls associated with Henry Tenon. These calls encompass the dates of March 2nd. Right there. It's like, where are all of his other jail calls? As of the filing of the motion, the defendant has not received any of the requested jail calls, video, or tablet messages associated with Mr. Tenon. Because guess what they will reveal? That Henry has been saying this forever. Then they say, like, listen, we can go ahead and submit a public records request, but guess what? They're going to deny us because this is an ongoing investigation. Right? That's what happens in FOIAs. We're not going to get that. Additionally, if it is also understands counsel experience that the requested material may be deleted or recorded over if not properly saved and preserved. Thus, where undersigned counsel has worked diligently to obtain the requested records and materials, the defense respectfully requests that this court enter an order compelling the state to provide the requested discovery. They have kept everything to do with Henry Tenon. This is crazy. You do not do this. They have no case. No, none. Then wait till we get to this good one here. I gotta get to the 2024 numbers here, where they're like, we have to announce something to you guys because you guys are going to start deposing people. And that's going to be, I think this is it. Nope. Is that it? Oh, we got one more. Okay, so this is when I'm going to put this in chronological order so we can talk about why this happened like this. 7th notice. What's the date there? Okay. So in 2024, this is what happened in 2024. They are making on 10/28/2024 the 7th notice of taking depositions. Okay. So all these people get listed. Okay. And this is how it would look. And it gives you like a month notice, 3 weeks, whatever. And it tells you what time and where to show up. Okay. Well, so let me show you a couple others. So there's those, and then there's like, they had to do like the children. Here, I'm going to try to pull up when they gave, so it'd been like 10, 20. I'm trying to find a video.
Will mark 1 month since the murder of this St. Johns County father of 4 on a quiet street in a Jacksonville Beach neighborhood. For the first time, the widow of St. Johns County man Jared Bridegan is sharing her family's pain.
And this comes as detectives still search for the killer.
Even if you don't care about our family, like, someone's out there that did this. They didn't care that there was a child in the car. They didn't care that he was a great guy. They just shot him. Everyone should care about that.
And tonight, Kirsten Bridegan shares her story only with News4Jax reporter Vic Michelucci. He joins us from the scene of the murder on Sanctuary Way. Vic.
Stacey, it is a crime that has shaken up this community. We have heard from the neighbors who are concerned. Now, for the first time, we are hearing from Jared Bridegan's wife. She is obviously devastated, frustrated, and still frightened for her own family's safety. It happened back there, and right here we see a small memorial with this new sign. That is the truck that detectives are looking for.
Girl, thanks.
These videos give us a glimpse of who Jared Bridegan was.
I love my dad because he's the best.
Someone who loved his family, humble and humorous. A successful software engineer, but a hands-on father of 4. 9-year-old twins Liam and Abby from a previous marriage. 2-year-old Bexley and a newborn, 6-month-old London.
The minute you met him, you just fell in love with who he was. He honestly was the best dad. Whenever I needed a break, he scooped up all the kids, took them out, did something, or took them outside and gave me a minute to catch my breath.
For Jared's wife, Kirsten, the world stopped on the night of February 16th. He had just dropped off his older 2 children at their mother's house in Jacksonville Beach when he stopped for some reason on Sanctuary Way near JTB. Police believe it's because of this tire in the road. You can hear the gunshots in a neighbor's surveillance. Detectives tell us someone ambushed him at close range, killing him near the driver's door, his flashers on, his 2-year-old daughter Bexley in the back seat. She wasn't hurt.
We started driving down the route we usually take out to the beach, and I kept calling his phone. And then one of the policemen answered it.
Awful.
And that's when I knew, like, my gut feeling was right and something was really wrong. I asked if my husband was okay. And I was just told to drive to the police station. And I asked it again, and the same thing, just come to the police station. But that my daughter was okay.
This is pretty much where the scene was.
Jacks Beach Police and ATF agents are working tirelessly to solve the case, releasing this video of a dark-colored 2004 to 2008 Ford F-150. It has running boards, brown trim, and a silver toolbox. Investigators are exploring all options, looking at all potential motives, and not ruling out anyone as a suspect. Are detectives still making progress?
They are. It's, because it is an ongoing investigation, there's a lot we can't talk about. But
She's not in a single report.
Can tell you that every day they're making a little progress because of the information that's coming in, the information they've obtained through their investigation.
Kirsten, was there anything that happened before that would have been a threat, that would have foreshadowed this murder?
Nothing.
Okay, so those of you guys that have been following the Karen Reed case, in this case, you're going to see for the very first time, how Google is going up against Life 360. Okay, Google versus Life 360 timestamps. You're going to see it going up against each other in a court hearing trial. In this case, you guys are going to literally lose it. They used Life 360 in the Karen Reed case for Jen McCabe's Life 360 app. Okay. Well, in this case, they show that Google, because two people that were in the same car that were witnesses in this case, one of them provided their Life 360 and had timestamps. Okay. The other person, they used her Google timestamps. And we are not talking about a minute or two discrepancy. We are talking about over 20 some minutes discrepancy. So Google blows Life 360 out of the water. And so if people in the Karen Reed case, this is why you'd want to tune in and see what you can use from this case to show that you cannot go off of anybody's Life 360. Especially when you know in the Karen Reed case that they refuse to even do a geofence. They refuse to go and get certain people's Google analytic. Their, if you're going to use Jennifer McCabe's stuff, well, go get her Google stuff. Okay. Did they even preserve any of that? But I'm telling you right now, in this report, let me see the report number. Because I'll show it to you guys right now in black and white, or at least I'll just tell it to you. Okay, it was something like 26 minutes. 26 minutes. 26 minutes differential between Life 360 and so let's talk about, when you want to talk about the Karen Reed case, add or subtract 26 minutes from every timestamp that you have with Life 360. Again, we're not talking about a couple minute discrepancy here. We are talking about like one of the timestamps is like 8:44. Life 360 saying that they were leaving the area at 8:44, like her and her sister. And then the other sister's Google said that they left at like 9:21. So if you're watching the Karen Reed case, this trial is going to show that Google is going to be compared to Life 360, and that Life 360 was off anywhere at different times between double digits. Like, we're not talking, like I said, a minute, 2, 3. We're talking a significant difference. And one of the times is like 26 minutes. And that to me is just like, whoa, like that's a lot. Okay. That's a lot.
No. I've racked my brain. I stay up. I don't get much sleep. I stay up all night long thinking, why? Or, was there any hint that this was coming? And there was none.
Do you want to mix it a little bit?
Bridegan's loved ones are asking, begging for anyone with any information to do the right thing.
The reality is, someone watching this could have done it or could know who did this. They could be watching this. What is your message to them?
If you know anything, please say. Whether for the money or just help me and his 4 kids get answers. Or just because you're a basic, decent human being, like, please say something. So no one deserves to go through this, especially not Jared.
A really difficult interview to do. If you know anything, the Bridegan family begging for your help. There is now a $13,000 reward from First Coast Crime.
Only $13,000. Who would? Okay, so I want to point out something. April 18th. So this would be 2 months basically after the murder. Okay. I received the Google geofence subscriber information for the devices for the Pablo Hamlet search warrant. This is over by where Shanna Gardner's at. The following subscriber information was provided by Google. Reference Google number 139317111. Now, they have 4 device IDs. Not 3, but 4. But 2 of these device IDs come back to the same subscriber, who's Michael Bess. We looked into a Michael Bess in the Jacksonville area, and he is if this is the same person, he is a bad motherfucking man. Okay? He has got a rap sheet as long as Turtle Boy's lies. Okay? It's insanity. But why would this man have 2 devices in this area at the time, a very important time frame? Michael Bess wouldn't even be fucking interviewed in this case. At least not by the Jacksonville Police Department or the ATF that I have. Wanted to kill Jared Bridegan. Yeah, pretty crazy. What do we know about the crime scene? So
Jared's
this was,
flashes were on.
like I said,
Nothing was stolen from the
a
car.
long time ago. I want to fast forward to
Back the same way.
let's go. I want to go back to right where they show. Okay. Right here. Have you seen this truck? Now, explain to me. All right. Explain to me how you came to even get on this truck. And they use the actual like picture from that night. This was everywhere back then. So explain to me how anybody would ever have left that rental house and literally put the matching tire to the tire that was in the road and left that in their yard. Who the fuck would ever do that?
Detectives are looking for.
That's where Mario Saldana would leave a tire. That's where Henry Tenon, but they got rid of the truck and put it somewhere else, but decided to take a tire with them and leave it in the yard. Just literally, so the police come to that house on July 17th, July 18th, something like that. Just after Butler goes through this Google shit.
Oh, babes.
These videos give us a glimpse of who Jared Bridegan was.
I love my dad because he's the best.
Someone who loved his family, humble and humorous.
But yet you have John Biggerstaff being shown in the discovery in March and nobody goes to talk to John Biggerstaff. Or did they? And he was basically like, I'm going to work with the police department to make this all happen. I mean, all because Mario Saldana called John Biggerstaff a day or two after the murders because he helped him move a table and chairs, multiple tables and chairs for his son's wedding. That's what the probable cause was, to like look into who. How are we getting search warrants? I'm just blown away. During the investigation, it was discovered from Biggerstaff's phone records that on February 17, 2022, at approximately 13:15, Biggerstaff had driven to Naval Station Mayport. Specifically, Biggerstaff went to Outdoor Adventures on Naval Station Mayport. On April 21st, 2022, at approximately noon, Commander Crumley and I drove to the Outdoor Adventures and spoke with the on-duty manager, Wendy. Miss Sawyer researched the date and time Biggerstaff came to Outdoor Adventures and located a sales receipt. The receipt showed Biggerstaff rented 40 chairs, 5 tables, 1 canopy, 4 canopy sides, and a cooler. His son had a wedding. What the fuck does that have anything to do with shit? I said Biggerstaff's phone records. How did they get the timing advance on Biggerstaff's phone records if they didn't know about Biggerstaff until March 3rd or 4th? He's AT&T. Remember timing advance? I thought it's only 7 days. It's not. It's a lie. What does this give you probable cause for anything? Then all of these people end up being in this geofence named, Jamie Jackson, Michael Bess. None of these people were interviewed. Like, how do you know that they're not involved? Like, this was the 20 minutes beforehand, 20 minutes afterhand, then during the time of the crime. And the ATF is like, these are important devices. You probably want to do something with them. Jacksonville Beach did nothing with them. I can't find a single interview with anybody that these devices came back to, except for the people that were basically witnesses at the crime scene, like that they had seen X, Y, and Z, like because they were there, like, and saw the flashes on or something like that. Now, Shanna Gardner's over here signing consent to search her phone on April 15th, 2022. I don't know why I'd be signing any of that stuff, right? Then, here, report 40. I also received the AT&T subpoena from ASA Christina Stifler for John Biggerstaff's toll records from his cell phone. I submitted the subpoena to AT&T. ASA Christina Stifler approved the secondary search warrant for Google to provide those 3 device ID subscriber information for the scene search warrant. Judge Eric Robertson approved the search warrant. Then I submitted the search warrant to Google via their law enforcement portal. Later on this date, I received the Google subscription information for those 3 requested devices. On Friday, March 4th, 2022, I submitted a Google preservation letter to Google via the law enforcement portal for John Biggerstaff's information. Why? Why? Google reference number was whatever. I also submitted a Google preservation letter to Google via the law enforcement portal for the Cradle Creek area in Jacksonville Beach in order to possibly submit a search warrant for a Google geofence of the area. Why? How, off of what? Now, I'm going to read for you. Okay. Where is it? Okay. Okay. On Thursday, February 24th, 2022, ATF special agent. So February 24th is outside of the 7 days by a day. Special agent Mark Mutz obtained a signature from Judge Bruce Anderson Jr. for the cell phone tower dump search warrant for the incident location. Special agent Mutz submitted the search warrant to the various cell phone companies, AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, and Metro PCS. Lastly, I scanned the search warrant into this report. On Friday, February 25th, I received the Google geofence information from the scene. How did you get that on AT&T? I provided the information to ATF Special Agent Mark Mutz so that their analyst could interpret the information. Guess who that was? Butler. On Tuesday, March 1st, 2022, I was contacted by Special Agent Mutz about the geofence information, the first Google geofence search warrant. He informed me that there are 3 device IDs which I should get subscriber information in order to identify the owner of those devices. I completed 2 additional Google geofence search warrants, 1 search warrant for 20 minutes prior to the homicide, and the second search warrant for 2016, 2022 between 1814 hours and 1850 hours. You guys, this was done on March 1st, 2022. Again, this is Google though. Google geofence, right? Google. But we're talking also about tower dumps. How are you getting AT&T to do a tower dump after 7 days? I thought that couldn't happen. Next, I want to show you guys going back to this girl. So this woman, Allison, she gave a statement. I have to get to her new one here. Okay. On April 7th, 2022, at approximately 10:15 hours, Petra Britzerberger from the Discovery School arrived at the Jacksonville Beach Police Department. The interview was with, this is the woman who works at the school. Now her phone was in that geofence. So they're like, oh, she's not important, right? She's this school person. Well, this woman says that Petra, she stated that this is the woman that runs the school where the kids went, this Discovery School, which is right next to the house. She said that she thought it was strange. She did not notice Mario Saldana present at this memorial that she had for Jared. She said, hey, just so you guys know that Gardner and Saldana were currently going through a divorce. So then why was it so odd that he wouldn't have been there? That's a bit like, I don't believe the statement. It's contradictory. Gardner informed Petra that she was currently getting a divorce and Saldana would be moving out of the house in June after the school year was over. Petra would go to explain that the Discovery School is a close-knit school and they tried to provide support for the children. Petra advised the school was originally informed about the divorce in early January. Ding, ding, ding. This to me is why I say what I say about this case. Mario was like, oh my God, this divorce cannot happen because I will be broke bitch. Okay. Then she goes on to say, Petra explained her involvement with Gardner and Saldana since the children had been attending the school. Petra advised that she had not seen the two together very often, but she has seen nothing out of the ordinary. Petra advised that she has never seen any issues between Gardner and the victim at the school. Gardner was typically the only person present at the school during events. Gardner was. Now, you think this woman's lying? Gardner was typically the only person present at the school during events for the school, for the students. And that would be for their kids. Petra would go on to explain the video surveillance system was not currently working during the incident. Petra stated that she would check on the security cameras to see if it was possible to locate any video. They never followed up with this woman. You want to know why? Because this blows up Jacksonville Beach's bullshit. Now, okay. Let's go back to Henry Tenon's interview. This was Thursday, August 18th at 7 o'clock in the morning. Henry Tenon signed a cell phone consent form. Why the fuck would you ever do that, right? Henry Tenon DNA search warrant. How did you get a search warrant for his DNA? In August. For what? He didn't just consent. They got a search warrant for his DNA. I want to know how. You guys, it takes a lot to get somebody, a search warrant for someone's DNA. You can't, what are you getting? Why are you getting my DNA? What the fuck are you? Why? I got pulled over for for my fucking license being suspended. And I'm driving. Yep, and here's a search warrant for us to get your DNA. Excuse me? For what? Think about that. That's crazy. Oh, because he had a firearm in the car, but you really knew that it was an antique firearm? And you guys lied? So therefore, how they obtained his DNA would be what? Off of lies? So anyways, August 18th. I responded to 311 West Monroe Street, State Attorney's Office, 4th Circuit, in an effort to conduct an interview with Henry A. Tenon. Why is Henry at the State Attorney's Office? on Thursday, August 18th. Tenon was arrested on unrelated charges by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. And this was Detective Johns. Okay. At approximately 7 o'clock in the morning, the interview with Tenon was conducted at CGIC at the SAO. State's Attorney's Office is what SAO means. The interview was audio and visually recorded. Also present during the interview was Detective William Paul Cullen, JSO-CGIC. Detective Cullen went over Miranda with Tenon, who signed the form and agreed to speak with us. During the first part of the interview, Tenon was asked about his driving habits and what car he was driving when he was stopped earlier for DWLS. Tenon stated the Crown Vic he was driving today belongs to his roommate, Jeremy Ordway. He stated that he started using the car around February or March of this year. He said he mostly keeps the car at Potomac Ave, but sometimes he goes to 8701 Old Kings Road. Tenon stated he took the Crown Vic to Drayton, Georgia to visit his brother in April. Tenon was asked if he used any other vehicles. He stated he was also driving a truck for about 8 months until it started having trouble. He was asked who owns the truck. He stated it was his father's. He stated his father passed away and left him the truck. He stated he thinks he got the truck around the first of the year. He stated it was a 2004 F-150. He drove it until the truck stopped running. He stated he could not afford to get it fixed, so he sold it for parts. He stated the truck broke down in February. That's the same month of the murder. Tenon was shown an LPR, license plate reader, hit from April that shows the truck at 103rd and Ricker. He stated he kept the truck for about a month after he put the tires on the truck April 2nd. Tenon was asked if he ever had to have the truck towed anywhere. Okay. He stated that he had it towed home in April when the oil pump went out. He stated he then sold the truck for parts in a cash deal. He did not know the person's name who purchased the truck. He was asked if he ever let anyone else drive his car. He stated the only one he ever let drive his car was Jimmy, but he was always with him. He was asked if he ever let anyone else use his truck without being in the car. He said Jerry Ordway would be the only person he'd ever let use the truck. He stated Jerry used the truck twice while he was at work, both times during the middle of the day. Okay, now think about this. This is exactly when these detectives know that this is when they're casing the place or whatever. He's over here telling you that he let somebody use his truck. Okay. Tenon was shown a picture of the truck and asked where he was going on February 16th around 6:30 in the evening. He stated if he was out at the beach, he was at a restaurant, Burnt Ends. He was asked where it was. He stated it was on the right off Beach Boulevard, approximately 4 blocks past Taco Lou. It should be noted, the only barbecue restaurant in that location is Mojo's Barbecue, located at 1500 Beach Boulevard. Fuck you, I don't believe you, Johns. Tenon was advised the night he was at the beach, there was someone murdered. He was also asked who had his truck during the murder. He initially stated he did not know. He then asked what night it was again. Remember, this is August, and they're asking him about February 16th. He was asked if he was in the truck. He stated he was not in the truck. He was asked who had his truck. He stated he did not know. He was asked if Mario had his truck. He stated no. He was asked again what happened to his truck that night. He did not answer. He was then asked why his phone was off that night. He stated it must have went dead. He was asked to tell us what happened that night, and he said he really doesn't know. Henry was shown a picture of John Biggerstaff. He stated he used to drive a white Chevy Sierra. He was shown a picture of Mario Fernandez Saldana, and he said that that was his ex-landlord. Tenon stated he does not know anything that can help us put him away, in quotes, motioning to a picture of Fernandez Saldana. Tenon was told there was various items against him. What? Who wrote this? Various items against him. What? And his cell phone was pinging in Jacksonville Beach. After denials and stating he did not know any information, he stated he did not know what happened involving his truck until detectives told him. He stated he drove to the truck. He stated he drove. Look at these guys. He stated he drove to the truck to the restaurant. He stated he drove to the barbecue restaurant in Jacksonville Beach sometime after 5 p.m. He stated a key stays in the ignition and a key stays with him. He was asked if he saw a picture of the person who took his truck, would he know them? He stated he would. He was asked where he was at when the truck was taken. He stated he was standing in the doorway of the restaurant. Tenon stated the truck was parked in the parking lot of the restaurant near the main road, Beach Boulevard. He was asked how long he was in the restaurant for. He said he was not sure, but it was a pretty long time. He stated he had to walk to the plaza, the opposite side of Taco Lou, to get his truck. He stated a green SUV pulled up and told him he could find his truck in the plaza next to Taco Lou. He stated he walked down Beach Boulevard and made a left at a little store and got a bottle of water and had a soda. He stated his truck was parked near the plaza on the other side of the restaurant. He stated this was about 9:30, 10 o'clock. He was asked if the same person who asked to borrow the truck is the same person that took it from the parking lot. He stated it was not. He stated the person who asked to borrow the truck was Danny. He said he and Danny used to do work for that fool, pointing to a picture of Fernandez Saldana. Detective Cullen touched the picture of Fernandez Saldana, saying, "This guy?" Tenon said, "Yeah." He stated he has known Danny for about 8 months prior to borrowing the truck. He stated Danny asked him to borrow the truck in January, but there were issues with his truck. He stated Danny purchased a new battery and an alternator for his truck, which Tenon felt locked him in to help. Tenon stated he was told to meet at the restaurant and they would leave from there. He stated Danny knew there was a key in the ignition since they had used it to do landscaping jobs together. Tenon was asked if he used his secondary cell phone to call his cell phone that was left in the truck. He stated he used his cell phone to call the phone in the truck because he could not find the truck. He stated he was upset with Danny because he did not bring his truck back in the time frame he was told it would be back. He stated he did not see the person yelling from the green truck was Danny. What? He stated he did not see the person yelling from the green truck was Danny because they knew him. What? But he did not actually see the person. He was asked if he recognized his tire was no longer in the back. He said, "Yep." He was asked if he talked to Danny after that night. He stated no, because Danny did not bring his truck back and he does not have his phone number. He asked if Danny was white or black. He was shown a picture of John Biggerstaff and asked if that was who came and got his truck. He said he did not think it as him. Tenon stated there isn't a whole lot he can tell us other than it was his truck and he was not driving the truck. He was asked if he was in the truck, he said no. He stated, all I know is Danny had my truck to move some tile or parchments or something like that. He then stated Danny left his black Mazda at Potomac and took the truck from there. And it should be like, everybody should be wondering right there, like, wait, what? Because you drove. How the fuck did you get, like, this is where everybody should be like, wait, huh? He stated, to the best of my knowledge, Danny had my truck. Henry stated, we, the police, have pictures of his truck and he was not in it. He stated anything he says is going to be messed up because he can't say Fernandez Saldana took his truck. Because he didn't. He said it was one of his rims and tires left at the crime scene, which was fucked up. He then stated Danny used his truck to repo someone's car, and Tenon did not want to participate, so he agreed to let him stay at the restaurant because he did not want to be involved. He said someone pulled up in a 2-door black Mazda. Tenon then stated, there is nothing else I can tell you. Detective Cullen asked Tenon what his concern was with telling us the truth. He stated his main concern is always about his kids and grandkids. He was asked if this has something to do with their safety. Tenon said pretty much, and well-being. Tenon stated, there ain't anything else I can give you, and I think I need an attorney. And that's the part that we all get is so all of this other shit here that Detective Johns wrote up, I can't believe this shit. I want to hear it on a recording device. But regardless, he's over here telling you that he had nothing to do with it and that, yeah, they took my truck. I wish I could help you get him, but this is crazy. This is crazy. But why wouldn't they listen to what he's saying and be like, okay, so bring in all a bunch of pictures. What do you mean, Danny? What do you mean? Then, while conducting an interview with John Biggerstaff on Monday, August 22nd, he agreed to submit a sample of his DNA. After putting on appropriate PPE, I used 2 sterile cotton swabs collected, to get his DNA. Wednesday, August 24th, I met with Henry Tenon at the Duval County Pre-Trial Detention Center in an effort to collect a DNA sample. Present during the encounter was myself, Santiago, and Tenon's attorney, Al Chipperfield. Al. His name's Alan. Al. I presented the search warrant for Tenon's review and handed a copy to his attorney. After putting on appropriate PPE, I used 2 sterile cotton swabs, collected saliva via the swabs and placed. And it's like, off of what? Off of what he told me. He said that his truck was involved. Well, so what does that mean? Of course his DNA would be on something if he's telling you that his truck was used, but he's not the fucking one that did a goddamn thing. Then At approximately 14:34 hours, Tenon's cellular phone was shipped to Cellbrite Advanced Services. The cellular phone was unable to be downloaded using conventional Cellbrite forensic downloads. The signed search warrant was submitted with the cellular phone. Okay, check this out. I want to know, what is this? Okay. Biggerstaff was, so this is John Biggerstaff's interview that the one that they want to put on the record, which they don't say happens until Monday, August 22nd. Okay. Now, Biggerstaff stated that he left the Navy once his daughter graduated from Sandalwood High School. John Biggerstaff advised his daughter graduated in 2008. Biggerstaff would go on to explain that his son is currently a police officer with Arlington Police Department in Texas. Okay. Biggerstaff would go on to describe Mario Saldana. Biggerstaff said a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, Saldana informed him Jacksonville Police Department has been talking to his tenants at 5139 Potomac Avenue. Biggerstaff stated that Saldana was friends with his daughter while she was in high school. Saldana and Biggerstaff became workout partners for years before Saldana left for the Army. Biggerstaff mentioned Saldana asked him to help him fill in a pool at his parents' house, which was being rented out prior to him leaving for the Army. Biggerstaff advised when Saldana came back from the Army, he began to work out with him again at this time. Saldana informed Biggerstaff of his head injury from the Army. According to Biggerstaff, Saldana suffers from migraines. Biggerstaff advised prior to COVID of 2020, he started a handyman business. Biggerstaff stated that he mentioned the business to Saldana, and he stated that he had contacts with the gyms. Biggerstaff stated that Saldana would act as a middleman for his business, and once COVID happened, he lost his business. Biggerstaff was asked about the statement he made earlier in reference to Saldana's tenants being interviewed. Saldana contacted Biggerstaff and gave him a courtesy call to tell him he might get questioned. Biggerstaff went on to explain that he had been arrested over a horrible accusation in 2016. Biggerstaff stated while on probation, he made some bad decisions and ended up in prison. Biggerstaff stated Saldana gave him a courtesy call because he was a drug addict. What? Biggerstaff would go on to explain that he was pissed off when he found out his son was going into the narcotics unit. What? Biggerstaff advised Saldana stated the police have talked to everyone he knows, so hey, just giving you a heads up here, Biggerstaff. You're a drug addict and they're going to come for you next. What? Okay. Biggerstaff went on to explain that he is currently doing remodel work at 5139 Potomac Ave. Biggerstaff was asked if he knew the residents at this address. Biggerstaff advised he did not really know the current resident. Biggerstaff said that he believes the current resident is in trouble and believes he is going to jail soon. Biggerstaff advised if the current tenant moves out, he would move in the first year for $1,000 a month. What? The rent would go up every year after until rent is on par with the houses in the area. Biggerstaff has to do the remodel work for this deal to take place. What the fuck? Biggerstaff began talking about his mismanagement of money and previous evictions. Biggerstaff advised he was suffering from a head injury and began to have accidents on himself and would wake up in various parts of the city. What? Biggerstaff would go on on to explain he did work previously on the Potomac address when Henry Tenon resided there. See, Henry Tenon didn't reside there anymore. He mentioned Tenon worked at a pallet company. Biggerstaff stated that he quit coming around when Tenon pulled out a bow and arrow. Oh my God, you guys don't understand. Henry Tenon does not have a bow and arrow. Biggerstaff's son, Juan, has a bow and arrow. Okay? This is crazy. Biggerstaff advised he did not want to be around any weapons due to his felony conviction. Biggerstaff advised he has a year or two since he has seen Tenon. Dude, this is so sick. But fuck you, John Biggerstaff. You're a piece of shit. And it's all coming out. Why the fuck would you be giving a guy like this a deal? Wait, there's more. Biggerstaff was shown a picture of Saldana, Ordway, and Tenon. When shown a picture of Ordway, he advised he did not know who he was. Biggerstaff later said the picture of Ordway may be the current resident. It should be noted Ordway is the current resident at Potomac. Biggerstaff was shown a picture of Tenon's truck, and he said he only ever known Tenon to have a bicycle. Biggerstaff advised he has not seen Tenon's current vehicle, the white Crown Vic. What? That's not his vehicle. Biggerstaff began describing his knowledge of Shanna Gardner. Biggerstaff advised he made a comment about how perfect Gardner's ass was, and that was the last time they talked about Gardner. Biggerstaff advised Saldana recently came to him and advised he was getting a divorce. Biggerstaff advised Saldana described Gardner as being an ex-Mormon and spoke about the court issues between the victim and Gardner. Biggerstaff advised he did not know Saldana and Gardner were even married for a year. Biggerstaff would go to describe the first time him and his wife met Gardner. Biggerstaff stated that they went to the beach. After the beach, Saldana invited them to go back to the house for a barbecue. Biggerstaff's wife did not want to go, and this was the last time he saw Gardner. Biggerstaff would go to describe his conversations with Saldana and Gardner about the divorce. Biggerstaff advised that Saldana's reason for the divorce was over a disagreement with how to raise the children. Biggerstaff would further describe the issues with the victim and the constant court appearances. Saldana informed Biggerstaff he was going to buy a toy hauler to live in. What? Biggerstaff was shown a picture of Tenon's truck and informed the truck was in Jacksonville Beach the night of the victim's murder. Do you hear that? That's how it got out. This right here, as well as he said the same thing to Jeremy Ordwell. Okay? That exact sentence, which is actually written by Detective Johns, that's what got out, and that's why Shanna Gardner knew all this stuff, because these motherfuckers told this to Mario, and Mario told this to Shanna Gardner. So to act like Shanna Gardner had no idea, like they lied. Well, here he wrote it himself. Biggerstaff advised he did not know about the murder until one day Saldana spoke about how hard it has been on the kids. Biggerstaff advised he did not even know where the area was until about 2 months ago when he driving down JTB. Biggerstaff was asked why Tenon would have involvement in the victim's murder. Biggerstaff stated he did not really know Tenon other than him talking about his family having property in Georgia. Biggerstaff advised he has never even seen Tenon pissed off. Biggerstaff stated that had never known Tenon to have any weapons other than that bow. He didn't have that bow, bitch. Biggerstaff would go to describe never seeing Mario want to harm anyone. Biggerstaff was asked if he had ever had any interest in 10mm handguns. That's what Jared Bridegan was shot and killed with, was a 10mm. Biggerstaff advised he had a 10mm handgun while he was part of a hunt club in Fargo, Georgia. Biggerstaff advised this gun was listed after his arrest. Biggerstaff stated his son inventoried all his weapons and took them from the house in 2016. Biggerstaff purchased the 10 millimeter for bear protection. What? For bear protection. This is crazy. And so the police believe that this is a murder weapon, by the way, this 10 millimeter, okay, that Biggerstaff owns, that cannot be found anywhere, okay? So Biggerstaff was asked what brand the gun was, and he advised probably a Glock. Biggerstaff advised he owned a 40 caliber Glock he used for backup firearm. Biggerstaff stated his son currently uses this gun and that his son took away most of his guns. Biggerstaff advised most of the guns were family heirlooms. Biggerstaff advised his son does not have the 10 millimeter gun. Okay. Now this is important. Biggerstaff was asked why he was searching for 10 millimeter Glocks on 1/26/2022, which would be right, before the homicides on the 16th. Biggerstaff paused and thought for 15 seconds and stated, no. Biggerstaff stated he does not buy or do anything with guns because he is a felon. Okay. Biggerstaff was informed Tenon's cell phone was in Jacksonville Beach on 2/16/2022, the night of the murder. Biggerstaff was also informed Saldana and his cell phone was turned off the night of the murder at the same time. Not all that's correct. They want some of this to get back to certain people. Biggerstaff was asked why the phones were off, and he advised he did not know. Biggerstaff tried to explain Google history is not accurate. See how he's already talking about Google history is not accurate? Biggerstaff stated he turns his phone off all the time, but Biggerstaff was also informed Saldana and his cell phone was turned off that night. So they're trying to say that Biggerstaff's cell phone was turned off that night. Okay. But guess what? Biggerstaff has a fucking alibi. Now his alibi is his son, his mom, the wife of the son, because they were all at his sister's eating, supposedly. Biggerstaff stated he turns his phone off all the time. Biggerstaff advised he does not remember having a conversation with Saldana prior to or after the murder. Biggerstaff stated he does not have a recollection of 2/16/2022. Biggerstaff advised he does not leave the house very often. Awesome. Now, John Biggerstaff is who I believe is involved in this. Okay. John Biggerstaff was asked for a consent to retrieve a DNA sample and a search of his cell phone. Biggerstaff consented both verbally and by signing to both consent forms. But this is funny to me because they put in like a preservation, and I believe that they did something on February 22nd, 2022, and it was a subpoena for his phone in Google. So I don't know why there needed a consent in August, because I thought you already got it with a subpoena in February. Biggerstaff gave a swab collected by Detective Johns. Biggerstaff also gave his cell phone to Detective Johns, who immediately took the phone to JSO Computer Forensic Department to be downloaded. And guess how he spells downloaded? Down space loaded. Detective Johns is an absolute fucking idiot. Okay? He is equivalent to Michael Proctor. All right? These two guys are fucking dumb. Like literally dumb. He cannot write to save his life, but he's a detective. Get the fuck out of here. Biggerstaff was advised, or Biggerstaff was asked further about this 10 millimeter handgun he previously owned. Biggerstaff advised he originally bought the 10 millimeter handgun for protection from bears while hunting. This was prior to his arrest. Biggerstaff continued to speak about hunting and the bears he would see while hunting. Biggerstaff was asked what kind of ammunition he would use for his 10 millimeter handgun. Biggerstaff stated he does not remember and advised he would purchase it from Academy Sports on Kernan Boulevard. Biggerstaff was asked again where his firearms went after he had them inventoried after his arrest. Biggerstaff was asked if he had to give the guns away or if they were confiscated by the state. Biggerstaff stated it was a mixture of crap. It was a mixture of crap. Biggerstaff advised his son, daughter, and wife were involved with it. Biggerstaff further stated he thought, but it's spelled taught, he would get his guns back because he thought the charges against him were BS. Biggerstaff further advised his son was forced to give up his crap. Biggerstaff was arrested. Biggerstaff was asked about communications with, so here's where, now get this, guys, ready? It's important to talk about the fact that JOS, like the Jacksonville Sheriff's Department, they had a lost and found a 10 millimeter. And they don't want to talk about it at all. And they need to start talking about it. Because it was like, I don't know if it was like stolen out of the evidence locker. Something happened with a 10 millimeter gun from the Sheriff's Department. Biggerstaff was asked about communications he had with Saldana the night of the murder. Biggerstaff offered to allow detectives to look through the phone. The phone was subsequently downloaded and no messages were present. The communications with Saldana had been deleted up to May of 2022. Biggerstaff further advised he has a bad memory due to his injuries. Biggerstaff continued to describe situations where he has memory loss issues. Biggerstaff was asked again how often he comes to Jacksonville Beach. Biggerstaff advised he comes to Jacksonville Beach often. Biggerstaff further stated he does not know where Jacksonville Beach starts and ends. Biggerstaff stated he typically comes to Jacksonville Beach for the 4th of July. Fucking hilarious. Biggerstaff advised he does not know how many times he has been to Jacksonville Beach this year. Who the fuck would? If you live in that area? Biggerstaff further stated maybe a dozen or more times. I don't fucking know. Biggerstaff began to further describe his relationship with Mario. Biggerstaff said that he has known Saldana, who's Mario, before Mario joined the military. Biggerstaff was shown a calendar of his communications with Saldana. So see how they got this? Now, how do you have any of this if you did not go through they have a calendar of this. Here you go. How do you have this if you did not go through Mario's shit? You got the calendar off of Mario's Google. And this interview is in 2022. This is crazy. Nothing was supposed to be gone through until 2023, I guess, because that's what they tried to claim. But yet these reports say otherwise. How? 2022. Google Calendar. And then you have also the phone records. They may have made their own. They also got his phone records back then. So here's his answer. Biggerstaff was asked about his communications with Saldana the night before the murder. Biggerstaff stated the conversation was of a personal nature. Biggerstaff advised that he and his wife are swingers. It is in writing right here. Do you guys need to see it? His communication with Saldana the night before the murder, Biggerstaff stated the conversation was of a personal nature. Biggerstaff advised that he and his wife are swingers. Biggerstaff advised he does not know why Saldana was at his house. He was at his house the night before the murder. Biggerstaff was asked if there would have been a reason Saldana and him were together driving around Jacksonville. Biggerstaff advised he does not know. It may have been to go to Potomac. Biggerstaff advised Saldana helped him move some scrap, but he believed it was in July. Biggerstaff could not advise which salvage yard he took his truck to, but he thought it may be on the west side. Biggerstaff was asked again about Saldana contacting him in reference to the police. Biggerstaff advised Saldana was giving him a courtesy call because he was previously arrested and his drug use. Biggerstaff was asked further about Tenon and his truck. John Biggerstaff advised Tenon only ever had a bicycle. Biggerstaff advised he has been to Potomac during the last 2 or 3 months. Biggerstaff stated in that time he has not seen the truck in question. How about a tire? How about a tire? If he was there in the last, 2 or 3 months, did you plant that fucking tire? Did you tell people where they could find that tire? That tire is what gave probable cause. A tire that just winds up on the lawn of where Henry Tenon just winds up to drive to and park a car as police are arriving. Give me a break. Biggerstaff was asked when the last time he spoke to Saldana. Biggerstaff advised Saldana came to his school today. What? Saldana goes on the same day. How? God, sounds like Mario's got somebody that's connected in the police department. But Biggerstaff advised Saldana was inquiring about a job. He wanted a job with the JROTC program. Shut the fuck up. Biggerstaff with further describe his wife and him as swingers. We are total swingers. Biggerstaff advised he believed Saldana was also a swinger, but Gardner was not. Biggerstaff further described the situation when his guns were taken from him. Biggerstaff advised he inventoried all of his guns in 2016 and does not know where they went. Biggerstaff advised the Middle District of Florida informed him and his family everything had to be out of his house. Due to this, his son had to get rid of his bow and arrow. What are the odds that you're going to talk about your son getting rid of his bow and arrow, okay? And then, now I'm like, why do they keep talking about this goddamn bow and arrow? Henry Tenon doesn't own a fucking bow. Biggerstaff continued to advise he has no knowledge of the murder. Now, why wouldn't this guy be talked to way before Henry Tenon was arrested? This is who you had in March. That you believe Mario Saldana was, he was with him the night before the murder. He's talking to him. He's calling. Why would this guy not be talked to until August of 2023? And after he was arrested, or after Henry Tenon was arrested. Henry Tenon is not the shooter. These fuckers knew it. What a bunch of lying assholes. AT&T, here we go. Ready for this? Subpoena returns were received for the following. AT&T, how the fuck are you getting subpoena returns from AT&T from June 15th to August of 2023 in 2022? Oh, wait. They wanted to do... Hold on. What's the date here? Are those returns? Okay, yeah. June 15th to August 23rd of 2022. You guys, they put in for the subpoena on August 23rd. So you should only be able to go 7 days back in order to get timing advanced. Well, June 15th to August 23rd, they got all their shit back. And they're over here doing timing advanced. Absolutely ridiculous. Fucking lies. Idaho 4, here you go. Here's your proof. they're like, we need Henry Tenon to say that he's the shooter here. Once he says then we can then just start arresting people, because then he's basically, yep, I did the shooting, but I conspired with these people and I was the shooter and I was hired by by Mario and Gardner. Knowing these cops knew that didn't happen. That's how they develop probable cause. False confession, a coerced false confession. And I think that they need to go and move in for coercion, and then everything can get tossed. That's what I would do. That's all. Hopefully this helped bring it up to speed. See ya on the next one. Give a special shout out, DB.